Hi, everybody. Things are going to be a little different on this episode. I'm still Alec, and Paul's around here somewhere.
Right over here.
There he is. Today on the Short Horror Beercast, we've got a very special episode for you.
Indeed.
Now, we've been really excited about it since we learned it was happening. Today, Paul and I are going to talk with someone other than ourselves, which is exciting. He's a filmmaker, musician, storyteller, writer, husband, father, activist, and he definitely knows his way around the horror genre. And he has a new film he's directed that we're really excited to talk about, and it's getting lots of well-deserved buzz, and it's called Interaction. So let's welcome to the Short Horror Beercast my good pal, Dallas Richard Hallam.
Welcome, Dallas.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm welcome. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. It's super cool. Look, we've both had the privilege of seeing your latest film.
Yes.
And it is dope, dude.
Thank you. I never know how it's when I send it out to someone because it's not available yet for wide viewing. So right now it's really still. But if you don't catch it at a festival, you see it because we've been chatting and I send you a screener link. So when I send it out to someone, I'm always on pins and needles because I really never know what the response is going to be. So your positive response really made my day.
That's good. Yeah. And it was honest.
Yeah. And Alec had texted me, what would you think? I said, fucking great.
Yeah.
I meant that.
Thank
no, seriously,
you.
I did mean that. So
it means so much.
This
is, I've made a bunch of work. I've only ever had real successes with films like this that I just put on a credit card and make myself. And so a lot of effort goes into it, a lot of pain and struggle, and there's a lot of rejection along the way. So getting the positive feedback on a film like this it means the world.
Sure. I imagine. And you deserve it. It's really good.
Yeah.
Now,
thank you.
I should probably begin by saying that Dallas and I used to work together in Los Angeles. We used to work in an art department that was designed for reality television.
Right.
And we met on Punk'd.
Yes.
And we had many adventures.
I have one punk story I tell all the time, and it's horror adjacent, so I'll tell it again now.
Oh, good.
It's not much of a story, honestly. So when I get to the end of it, you'll see like nothing interesting happens, but it's a precious story to me because it involves Wes Craven, and It's my only interaction with Wes Craven. When you live in LA long enough, you collect like celebrity stories. I had dinner next to this person, or and especially working on a show like Punk'd or on all the shows stuff we do over time, you end up running into people. So in this case, didn't even come close to Wes Craven, but I just love that this is a moment that is in my head forever because it has multiple layers to it. Mm-hmm. So the first layer of it is that it was Punk'd, and you were there, and I don't remember who we were punking, but the thing about Punk'd is that there's the punker and the punky.
Yes.
And so the punky was Pauly Shore. So that's the second layer. So not only was it Punk'd and it was Pauly Shore's house, but but it was just that already makes it interesting.
It already makes it horror adjacent too, right?
Yes, yeah. It's a non-union show. So in a non-union show, you end up like in the art department on the back of a stake bed holding flats. While you're smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee at 7 o'clock in the morning, going up a hill in an alley in the Hollywood Hills. And so again, not much else to the story, but I was on the back of a stake bed holding down a flat and drinking my morning coffee and smoking a cigarette. And we passed by a house, and standing on his back porch was Wes Craven, who was also drinking his morning coffee. As I pulled away from him on the stake bed, we made eye contact, and I waved and he waved back. And that was it.
Oh my God.
There's not much to the story, but it's precious to me.
That's amazing.
That's big for me because I was there and I didn't see him. That's crazy.
You remember Pauly Shore's house, though?
I do, up on the hill there. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. No, I think I was in the back of the stake bed with Gentry Stanley or Mackie. And then Wes Craven was there. He was watching the parade go by, drinking his coffee.
He's like, another production going past my house.
Yeah.
He was like, I think I'll film the rodeo right now.
I don't remember I think it was a failed Punk. They didn't all work out. I can't remember who it was that day, but
no, I remember him being there in his house. It was cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that was fun. That's a good story though. That's a great sighting. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say. So I'm on the East Coast here, and the closest I get to any sort of stardom would be New York City. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I may have seen Francis Ford Coppola one time.
That's
And
cool.
I couldn't tell. I couldn't get a good enough look, but I was pretty damn sure it was him. But that's about as close as I got. My mother, on the other hand, used to work in the city back in the day, and she used to work at Bloomingdale's, and she was on a break, and she was window shopping, and just was walking up and down window shopping. Now this is back in had to be late 1940s, and she was staring at a window, and she looked up like to her right and audibly gasped, because she saw this skeletal face just reflected in the window, and she turned around, and it was Jack Palance.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine seeing Jack Palance's face in a window?
I would love that, actually. It'd be fantastic.
Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was,
Holy shit.
But she used to see like Cary Grant all the time. Like,
Oh,
Cary
that's
Grant
cool.
running across the street and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Dallas is correct. When you live out there, you run into people just at unexpected moments and be like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
what I've heard. Yeah.
You know, because we both worked in the industry, and I spent 20 years on set on various TV shows and stuff. So I have a million like celebrity stories that are much more in depth. You know, that one is just my favorite one ever, just because I'm a horror guy, and it's Wes, and Wes is
and
so
it was just
special.
random. It's like turn your head and there's the guy.
Yeah.
There he is.
That's great. Now you just moved, didn't you? You were in upstate New York.
Yes. So during COVID, we were renters in Los Angeles. We'd been living in LA for 20 years. And at the time COVID hit, we had 2 kids in elementary school, and we were renting someone's guest house in South Pasadena. And so all of a sudden, right when COVID hit, it was like schools were out, nobody was going to work. We were on top of each other. We couldn't pay the rent anymore. So we moved out to the desert, and we lived in Joshua Tree for 8 months during that time.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And that was cool. I'll always remember those 8 months fondly. And we did flirt with the idea of staying in JT forever. But after 8 months, we kind of realized that as magical of a place as it is, as the high desert is, it's really not for us. It's not a forever place.
Sure.
At least it wasn't for us. So this opportunity came up to go to buy this farm in upstate New York, and we jumped on it to do something crazy. Again, it was COVID. All of our brains were melted. So we did this crazy thing and moved somewhere we had no connections. We were outside. It was Ithaca, but we were 30 miles outside of Ithaca, so really in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
On a 67-acre farm. And I guess I would say for a year it was magical and romantic and cool. And then after a year, it was like 4 more years of what have I gotten myself into? It is so cold. And if it's not cold, I'm pulling ticks off of dogs. I mean, not just like a couple ticks here and there. I mean, like 20 ticks a night. I have 3 dogs pulling. And it's like it's night, and the dogs all have they take these pills to make themselves less attractive to ticks, and so this last season was so bad with the ticks. I swear to God, these things. Can I curse?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So these motherfuckers were like trying to crawl into the dog's eyeballs, because that's where and I don't really know how these medicines work, but I assume it's like in their muscle tissue or something where the medicine is sitting. And so, or under the epidermis or something. So they were just like, the ticks are always looking for somewhere and so that they always go to the head, because there's the least amount of the medicine, I assume, up there. And then they were like literally trying to crawl into eyeballs. And so anyway, long story short, I wasn't really built for 67 acres, and I really did. I want to read books. I don't want to mow grass. And
I get you. Yeah.
200-year-old farmhouse. It was so cool, but and we were very lucky to be able to land there. But my wife was working from home. She's a costume supervisor, and she was working from home. So in the last few years, all that changed, and she started coming back to LA more. I realized how much I missed LA. And every time I'd visit her, I remember like a year or 2 ago, I was visiting her in LA, and I was just driving down Beverly in a rented car and driving through some crummy area of town. And I don't mean crummy like dangerous. I mean crummy like LA's full of crummy areas.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I was looking around thinking, this is where I want to be. This feels like home. So we very quickly, once we really got bit by the bug to move back, we just moved back. And about a month and a half ago, we settled in. We were up here in La Crescenta, just loving every second of it.
Outstanding.
I can imagine after that experience. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the beer cast, right? So we don't expect you, since you're in LA and it's 10 o'clock or whatever it is, we don't expect you to drink beer. We're not monsters.
Okay, thank you. And I'm also nursing a bit of a hangover, so I don't want to add to it at 10 a.m.
That's fair. That's fair. When you do drink beer, what do you like? What's your favorite go-to for beer?
Oh man. Gosh, what do I drink these days? I mean, I kind of go for like lighter, crisper stuff. I've been drinking a lot of Sapporo recently. Like I just like simple things. I definitely I've gone through phases. When we were living in Joshua Tree, we had a wonderful liquor store and we were all just buying lots of crazy beers and intense, interesting local IPAs and stuff. But yet lately I've just been going for a lot of Pilsners and just lighter, crispy things.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it seems like your gears would shift from snowy upstate New York to a nice warm climb in LA.
Yes. We did have some good breweries in New York, and there was a Ithaca Beer Company had a couple of beers that I loved. One of them was called Flower Power. That was really good.
Mm.
Oh, right. I know that one. Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
Nice.
Sapporo was my go-to sushi beer.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it's great.
Nice.
Good stuff.
You have a go-to sushi beer. That's pretty cool. I like it.
I have go-to sushi socks too. I have the same socks. No, I don't. No,
well, obviously.
That's
yeah. All right. So let's talk about your work, man.
Okay.
Yes.
I wanna start with Entrance and the road since its release and how that film led you all this way to your latest film, Interaction.
Sure. Well, let's see.
It's a long question, but
yeah, and they're both kind of similar. So that both Entrance and Interaction, 15 years apart, were both made by necessity, let's say. So if I back up to Entrance, I think Entrance we made it in 2011. I guess I'd been in LA already almost a decade, and so I went to film school in Iowa, and I graduated in the early 2000s. And moved to LA, and I really just had no plan. All I ever wanted to do was to direct movies, and I showed up in LA, kind of just I think young and dumb, and thinking that that my genius would get discovered. I didn't have like the film school I went to was wonderful, but there were no like classes about managing your career or how to actually do this thing. And so I just showed up thinking I had great ideas and knowledge and talent, and it would just happen. So, which is the wrong thing to do. As a young filmmaker, you just have to make films, and that's it. And so I kind of waited around too much. And over the first 10 years in LA, I shot movies for people or produced little independent films. Obviously, I started working in production, which is where we met, working in reality TV. And then from there, I started doing prop work on movies and stuff. But a lot of time went by. And then I finished up a job. I don't remember what movie it was, but finished up a movie. And then, I do remember what movie it was. It was a movie called Salvation Boulevard, which I've yet to find someone who's seen. And yet, if you look this movie up, you'll be shocked. I mean, the cast is
Pierce Brosnan. Seeing that?
Yep. Have you seen this movie?
Oh, wow.
No, I remember you working on it because you and Ben worked on it together.
Yeah. Well, because and we shot it in Detroit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Pierce Brosnan, Greg Kinnear, Marissa Tomei, Jim Gaffigan, Kieran Hines. I mean,
amazing cast.
I'm not even done. There's I could literally name 10 huge, but yet it's one of those movies that it was kind of at the end of like a certain like type of indie movie that that could happen that cost a couple $1 million and it was just the end, I think, of this era, and it just disappeared. But I don't want to dwell on that. Oh, so I had a little bit of money and I wasn't married yet. So I had $6,000 set aside, and I started trying to make this movie called Land of Dust and Water. And it was I never made it, but that's the punchline to it all. But it was a movie that I thought I could get off the ground just by putting everything in motion. So I started having production meetings, and I got Ben and Helen involved to do art department and props. And the movie was about this I think now this territory is well trod, but at the time I felt like it was very fresh. It was an artist who her specialty were these kind of Joseph Cornell-esque type boxes.
Sure.
Now that kind of stuff's been in Hereditary, among many other films.
Yeah.
But at the time I felt like I could do something cool with this. And she just was kind of like a vampire, not on purpose, but she would, as she created her art, she'd be sucking life out of things. And this was a story about her and this boy that she was involved with who was having kind of the life sucked out of him. But it was like it was like that, but through like the lens of like a Terrence Malick movie. Very dreamy. So I was trying to get this thing off the ground. I casted for it. Susie Block, who was the star of Entrance and the star of Interaction, she auditioned for the movie, and I sent her an email telling her that she was great and she was in like the top of the picks, but that she wasn't right for the movie, and so she would not be cast for it. And like, before I wrap that part of the story up, I'll say the movie fell apart in a way these kind of things do, where one day I just was like, I was looking at that $6,000 and thinking, what the fuck am I even thinking? Like, that won't even pay for the props in this. Like, how could I even, this movie was way too big. So I just basically let it fall apart. And then my friend Patrick Horvath, now brilliant, famous comic book artist, Patrick Horvath, had just moved to Los Angeles, and we went to film school together. And I just looked at him. He had made this movie called Diner, Get It, which was a zombie movie, and I was his first AD. So he was going to AD this Land of Dust and Water, Joseph Cornell box is a vampire movie. Anyway, so I looked at him and said, hey, let's co-direct something and let's forget this thing. And instead, my pitch for him was I was like, when you only have $6,000, you gotta do what Hitchcock would do, which is to know the size of your box and then design your endeavor to fit comfortably within the box. And that's just not the way most people approach these things,
Right. I've heard, I mentioned Coppola before. Coppola had said that in an interview. He said, like, you get to the point where you get $100 and you're treating it as if it's $5,000.
Right.
You have this mindset where and any bit of money, it's like suddenly it's inflated in your mind because you're working from that mindset.
Yeah. And so my thought to Pat was I had this, what I thought, I think it was a brilliant idea. We were big fans of the Belgian filmmakers, the Dardenne brothers. And I just said, well, what if we made a movie what if the Dardenne brothers made a slasher movie? And so that took us right into social realism, handheld cameras. And Pat was like, okay, that's fine, but who's going to be the star? And I said, oh, I left out a crucial part of the story. So coming back to Susie Block, I'd sent her this email saying, you're not right for this movie. And after a couple of days, I received an email back from her that I guess she wrote while she was drunk, saying that I was completely wrong, that I was an idiot, and that she was the person who I should have picked, that she was right for it. And I had her in my head, not just because of that sassy email, but also because it was just part of the design. All of a sudden, when I shifted to this new movie, I could see her in it. And so
she was the one you were thinking of. Yeah.
Yeah, we're done. We've got it. You don't even need to think twice. We don't need to audition or we don't need to talk. We'll call her up and say, we have this. Do you want to be in this movie?
Excellent.
And so, Pat, at the time we made Entrance, it was just a lark. I mean, why stand in the way of any idea? let's run with it. So we got Susie involved, and Susie was interested in seeing how this could work out. And then in terms of that thing where I was talking about shrinking or designing the endeavor to fit comfortably inside the box, not only did we switch gears to go to this handheld social realist style, but we further restricted ourselves. We said, okay, we're going to go beyond the Dardannes at this point and say, let's have a whole bunch of rules, no non-diegetic music. So all the music in the movie, except for like the credits, all the music has to come from the world. Every single scene will be composed of one shot only, and the camera will never leave Susie. It will always be on Susie.
Yes.
And it was just kind of a fun exercise to give ourselves these rules. And it allowed us then to make this movie because we always had such a focused, we never had to look behind us, so we were only ever looking forward, and a room could be messy with gear or whatever behind us, but we never had to turn the room around because we were only always facing Susie. It made it easy to pull off this crazy little movie.
Sure.
And then The hard part for anyone out there who's seen Entrance, you'll know that the climax of the film is like an uncut 20-minute long shot that is like
I was about to bring that up. Because when I watched it, I'm like, I got about, I don't know, 2 minutes in before realizing, oh shit, this is all one shot.
Yes.
And and then once I locked onto that, I'm like, holy fuck.
And so did we. So I shit you not, we did not have this in our minds. Pat and I, because we kind of shot the movie in order, and we were getting close to needing to start to prep, and we knew we were gonna have to take this break because we were making the movie right up against Christmas. So we were like, okay, it's gonna be Christmas break, and we'll come back and finish the movie. And then Pat looked at me and he was like, oh shit, man. Like we've set up these rules. We've been shooting the movie this one way. How are we going to do this? Like we didn't set out to like show off, it was literally just, we had painted ourselves into a corner. So then we had to spend the entirety of Christmas break, just Pat and I, planning this detailed thing out because it had so many for a movie that was all about being simple. That final shot, there's so much going on. Every time the camera goes around a corner, there's like people sneaking into frame and swapping things out and moving stuff. It's just so much, but it was fun.
Yeah. And the way you shot it, it didn't look forced. Like, look, I'm doing a big giant shot. Watch this. It wasn't like that. It was very natural. So it was super cool.
Yeah, it maintains the style from the whole thing. So it's still only on Susie, still handheld, still very social realist, and so it just kind of maintained the principle. But like to do little things like, okay, this is a slight spoiler, but there's a character who has an axe in his head, and so we had this fake a real axe that a friend of mine had used an arc welder to like saw out a crescent moon shape on it and then attach an appliance so it could sit on someone's head. So now, the way it works is that a character goes past that person and we see the axe in the head. She goes around a corner, and then when she comes back out, we see that someone else is pulling the axe out of his head. So while we were like around the corner, someone else who wasn't, on camera had to run in, take off the appliance, and then put into place the fake axe so that then the next person could grab it. And the whole it took us like 3 nights of rehearsing to pull it all off, but the whole thing was like that. Where every time we turned a corner, there was something like that had to be dealt with.
It's great, man.
It's great. Flawless. It's amazing.
It's a great shot.
When you think about it.
Yeah, and it's great because, again, well, I won't say that because it will be a spoiler. It's too big a spoiler. I can't say it. But that shot was outstanding. It was super good.
Thank you. And for anyone out there,
banger.
Thank you so much. And Entrance is still available on... It used to be all, on Netflix and everything. Now it's just on like Amazon and iTunes. So the places where you can purchase a rental.
I think it's available on something called Plex.
Yes, that may be free with ads. I don't know how Plex
I think
works.
It might have ads. Yeah.
Okay. But we are going to be getting it back in about a year. And I think that we're going to be putting together a fancy schmancy Blu-ray release.
Cool.
Because it's only ever existed, in like a DVD quality
That's what
format. Yeah, and it really looks a lot better than that. So the Blu-ray, we have an HD Cam Master that I just finally got around to digitizing, and it looks great, and the resolution's better. So about a year from now, it's a long way. I'm plugging. This is a very bad podcast plug. A year from now, be on the lookout for an Entrance Blu-ray.
Yeah, well, that's a good plug because it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth checking out. Yeah, and listeners here would be fascinated to know that Stephen King was a fan of that film and wrote a hell of an article about it in Entertainment Weekly.
Entertainment Weekly, and that was I think I was back in Detroit when I got the news about that so after we made, I went on to work on that HBO show Hung with mutual friend of the show Ben Lewis, and that was shot on stages here in LA, but the exteriors were all in Detroit. So we were back in Detroit, I think, when I got the news about Stephen King. And not to toot my own horn too much about this, but nobody reached out to him. This wasn't like a PR move or like, he rented the movie on Apple and he called up Entertainment Weekly and said, hey, I want to write a story about this. And
that's so fucking cool, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. those cat noises.
I was gonna say, was that the cat? Okay,
It was. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a running thing here on the show is authentic cat noises on Paul's end.
But yeah, I'm gonna put it on my gravestone. I've talked about the Stephen. I passed along that Stephen King article 1,000 times since that day. I've been lunching out on it.
Oh, it's super cool, man. I mean, I remember hearing about that, and I was with you when you were that time you're talking about. I have a great picture of you and Ben and I at a restaurant, and I think you probably got the news right around then. It must have been because you were wrapping up that show, that movie.
Yeah, I can remember.
Or hung.
It was hung, yeah, because it was like there was this. The first time I was, and it's interesting too because Susie's father lives outside of Detroit, so just totally by coincidence, and he's an audio engineer, so totally by coincidence, I had an opportunity to have the sound mastered by a professional for Entrance. So when I was out there for Salvation Boulevard, I was doing the mastering for Entrance, but then we delivered it to IFC, and then when I was back out for Hung is when it was just coming out, and I got the news about Stephen King.
That's amazing.
Congrats, that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. And that got me. I think that that article probably got Pat and I our next job,
right?
Which was a movie that didn't really do much for my career, but it was a sequel to a movie called The Pact. The Pact is a great movie. I highly recommend it.
I think I've seen
it. Anyone who hasn't seen it should watch it. It's 100% a really, really great movie. So good that the producers wanted to make a sequel, and Pat and I got hired to do it. This is a tale as old as time, I think, in Hollywood, where I got the call that we needed to pitch for this job, and so Pat and I put together our idea for the movie. What would be a good idea, good for the Pact 2? Now, if anyone out there has seen the Pact 2 and you're thinking to yourself, it's not that great of a movie, well, that wasn't the pitch. Okay, so I got to make sure that's on the record. We had a great pitch for it, and then Pat got sick. So I went in to do the pitch, and I used to be. I mean, I guess I could probably still be good in a room, but I used to be great in a room. So I was really up on my feet, acting out the whole movie, acting our whole pitch. I mean, and really putting in all the bells and whistles. And then we got the job, and they told us your pitch was so great. That's why we're giving you the job, but we don't want to do that pitch. We basically want to do. They didn't say it, and they didn't say these words, but they just kind of wanted to do a remake of the first movie. And and when we first started working on it, it wasn't quite there. But every round of notes or revisions just kind of slowly guided the movie back toward. It could be that no one was even consciously doing this, but it was like. There was a review of the Pact 2 after it came out, where the New York Times called it like a canny remake, and I was like, wow, it was the first, I didn't even, I had that moment where my work was being explained to me in a way that made sense. And I didn't even realize that we had done a remake, but we had, and it's kind of, anyway, so the Pact 2 happened and nobody really watched it. And it's on Shudder now, and it has way too many skulls. It's like it's got like 3 or 4 skulls on Shudder, and I'm like, it deserves the 1 or 2 skulls that the mean people are giving it. My one beef. There's one review on Shudder's, like you should never look at reviews, but especially internet type reviews. Yeah. But there is one on Shudder that I always feel like commenting on or adding another review to say, hey, to that guy who said this. And it's such a throwaway review. It's like it was like a 1-star or 1 skull review for the Pact 2, and the guy was like, "Oh, it was bad in this way, it was bad in that way." And then the way the review ended is what really stuck in my craw. He said, "They just did a couple jump scares and called it a day." And I really like to find this person or just this is my moment to reply to it, to say, when you're making a little movie, there's no calling it a day. For whether or not you think the Pact 2 is a good movie, Pat and I put 1,000% into that for months of our lives. We put everything into it, and it didn't turn out so great, but we put blood, sweat, and tears.
People sit behind their screen and go, "Fucking this is this and this is that." They don't know. They have no idea what it takes.
Yeah, and it was a throwaway comment, but I would like anyone out there to know that in the world of independent filmmaking, like at Marvel movies, we'll call things a day. But the idea that like an independent on an independent film set, anyone is doing anything other than stressing and working as hard as they possibly can.
Ass,
yeah. Even for a movie that doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Raimi Lover 464 can stuff it up his ass.
No, he doesn't have to do. I just want him to know there was effort. It was effort the whole way through.
That's awesome.
Yes. Yes, I'll speed up to get us to interaction. So the Pack 2 happened, and then I also had kids. I had two beautiful boys, and I think that the combination of not really getting my career started up and also growing a family put me in a role over the last decade of having to work and make money and provide. And so I've been I got into making corporate videos and stuff, and been doing a lot of that kind of work. Which is not what I want to do, which is make horror films. What it did give me, though, is the opportunity to acquire lots of gear. And that's what that brings us to interaction. So years later, kind of lost touch with LA. I'm up in the woods in Ithaca in the middle of nowhere. And
digging out ticks.
And I reconnected with an old friend of mine named AP Boland, who's just about the best screenwriter I've ever encountered. And we went to high school together and had lost touch. And then he side note on AP Boland, this motherfucker didn't just hike on the Appalachian Trail. He hiked the entire from beginning to end Appalachian Trail.
Nice. Holy shit.
And then after that, he quit his job at the railroad and he went to AFI to do screenwriting. So he had kind of like a crazy life change, and that's when we reconnected after he'd finished his screenwriting program.
That's kind of a badass MO. He quit his job at the railroad and then moved
I know. He used to ride around the railroad. He quit his job, hiked the Appalachian Trail, and then went to AFI. I mean, what a story.
Damn. Cool.
So we reconnected and we wrote a script together. Well, he really wrote it. We developed a script together, which is unproduced as of yet. It's called Monster in the Dark, and it's one of my great fucking title, right? I mean, just total banger. It's awesome. A wonderful, it's kind of a coming of age horror movie, and we're still trying to get it made. So same boat as Entrance. We had this movie. We said, let's make it no matter what. So we're going to start trying to make it. When it dawns on us, well, we thought maybe setting it in motion would just make it happen, but nobody's given us $200,000. I mean, we could make it for $200,000. It's very cheap, but no one's given us that. So that's when, and this long story brings us up to interaction. It really kind of was a whole like midlife crisis moment. I've got to make another movie. I've got to, I can't, I know we're not going to make Monster in the Dark now. We haven't found that money. I just can't go another 10 years. Like I just can't. And so I had this idea, and I remember pitching this idea to Susie Block back in LA, before, right after Entrance, and we never did it. It was an idea about doing a Peeping Tom movie with her. And back then the idea was that it would have no plot. It's just this character wandering around Los Angeles. And the vision I always had in my head was, the downtown Central Library in LA? With the big like atrium in the middle of it with, 8 escalators going down into an abyss. Yeah. I always wanted to do a shot from the top of that, watching Susie's character with back then it would have been like a Walkman and headphones, but headphones going down, or maybe an MP3 player, but going down each escalator. But the audio was all of these secret recordings that she had. And so this was the impetus for interaction, where so I was pitching this to Adam, like we could make a movie where we could have sex scenes and we could have murder and we could have action and violence and not shoot any of it, make all that stuff audio only, and have a character who has secret recordings. And that's how we get to experience, through that. So Adam, being a great screenwriter, needed more than just that. And so he came up with the idea of taking that nugget kernel and putting it into the hands of an actual character who has a motivation. Yeah. Right, and that's where we got Rebecca, the housekeeper, and she's like spying on her clients. And so Adam really had took that and, spun the gold out of it. But it still was something that we could do for a very limited amount of money and just get it done. And so we wrote the script, sent it to Susie. She was down, flew her out. We shot about 70% of the movie in 2 weeks. This would have been in December of 2022. And I couldn't do it all because we started making the movie and realized we just didn't have enough time to make the whole movie. That we hadn't allotted enough time to do it well. I mean, and so I went through the script and I dog-eared all the scenes that I knew I could do just by myself with no crew at all.
Okay.
And so early winter in Ithaca, looks the same as early spring. So it was just like, Susie, let's just say we're going to take 30% of the movie off of our plate right now. I'm going to fly you back out here in the spring. So we shot for those 2 weeks. Susie left. Winter happened. Snow melted. Flew her back out. Still had nothing on the trees. Still had gray grass. Sure. And then about 30% of the movie, or maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe it's more like 25% of the movie, was just me and Susie all by ourselves, just capturing these last little bits and pieces that we needed to wrap up.
Right on. That's how it's done, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah. That's great.
And then after that, the movie still had a ways to go because the premise of the movie is there's a housekeeper who's making these secret recordings of her clients. And that's a huge part of the movie, especially the first act. Well, we didn't have any of that done. So Susie was acting to silence or just to my voice in when we shot the movie. So I had edited the movie, but I was missing all this content. And that's when one of the actors in the movie, R.J. Levine, who plays Tinsley in the movie, R.J. stepped up and became a producer on the movie and went out of their way to use their connections in the Ithaca theater scene to pull in all this talent to create voiceover sessions. And so that's when this is probably 10 months after shooting. Now we're collecting all that stuff.
Sure.
And this is why independent films, shot in 22, it's 26, and we're just now talking about it, is that we had to wrap up all that stuff, had to wrap up the edit, had to wrap up the color, and and the two really, these are I've worked on I've made feature length documentaries. Patrick and I worked on that great anthology movie Southbound. I have lots of credits, but honestly, if I was to say what is my CV, it's really just these two films, Entrance and Interaction. Those are the two that really are really worth something to me and to the world, I think.
It's efficient. I'll tell you that much.
Thank you.
They're great. Yeah.
I really liked the fact that when you think of someone, maybe it's my hang up. When you think of someone who's like a voyeur, I go to a dude instantly.
Yes.
Right.
So to have a woman doing that was really interesting for me. I don't know why. Maybe it's a common thing. I have no idea, but I wasn't ready for that. I was like, oh shit, that's what this is.
Yeah. When it finally hits you that's what's going on, you're like, oh, I see.
That's cool.
I think it makes it more interesting. I can't take credit for really, it was more about wanting to work with Susie again, and so, and knowing that Susie and I had a trust built up, so it would be easy to work together and it could be seamless. So it's probably just kind of a coincidence that it produced this interesting result where I think you're right about the result of it, but I don't know that it was something we initially said. It was just always going to be Susie.
Yeah, she's great, man. I mean, for being a character who's that dark and that, out there, she was the light of that film. She was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What really struck me is the how naturalistic and hyper realistic, I guess is the word, that those recordings sounded like.
Yeah, they were so good.
The dialogue on them.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we tried to capture them. She's using these crummy little devices, and we didn't use those. We recorded them properly. But what I would do is record them properly with a good microphone and a good recorder, but I would still place it in space, try to place it as if it's one of her hiding spots, and then the actors would still move about the space as if they weren't aware of it. So it was high quality recordings that then we would in post make sound even crappier, but we had them. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Now, can I ask, were those interactions scripted or were they improv?
So they were all in the script because there was placeholder, fight stuff. I would say, let's see. So there's a big fight between a husband and a wife that about an affair that was all scripted because it was just laid out. I think it just read really well as part of the script, but all the rest of them were just little bits of placeholder. So the film opens with her listening. This doesn't count as a spoiler because it's the very first scene. She's listening to two men who are having a romantic interaction, a sexual interaction with each other. Right. Yeah. And it's relatively graphic, and that was a case where there was like maybe 2 lines of dialogue on the page as a placeholder. But on the day, we just said we were working with professional actors who were used to improv, and so we talked about it for a bit. And this is kind of how most of the other recordings happen. We would talk about it for a bit, do a teeny bit of work, and then we would just roll and let the recorder go for anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. And so I would just have this whole. I have got this huge wealth of stuff. Yeah. And it made it hard to edit. In fact, the way the movie got finished is that the edit was done, the color was done, but I had this gigantic mountain of audio because of this way of doing it, where we had like 30 minutes of recording session with all these actors. So I just went out to a campground and then hung out in this campground by myself for like a week to go through all of it with a fine-tooth comb and put it all together.
Nice.
That's amazing. That's great.
Yeah, you just mentioned the color correction. There was a scene in the car wash where the entire frame like washes out to this like rose-colored light that was stunning.
Yes.
I don't know if that was your wizardry or if that was just luck of the being through the car wash.
I will take 2% of the credit on it.
Okay.
and I will give another 5, or let's say another 10% of the credit to like the LUTs I used, in post. And now that's only 13% of the credit. I would give another 30% of the credit to my wonderful, amazing director of photography, Douglas Shannon. So we're still talking about over half the credit. And that goes to the people who were working at the car wash, these fine young people working at the car wash, who specifically, when they saw what we were doing, specifically said, "Oh, you're going to want to get the hot wax wash because that's when all the colored lights come on."
Oh,
and
cool.
so, if they hadn't said that, I don't know. We might not have had all these wonderful lights in that
sick.
scene.
That's so great.
Refresh my memory. So that's in Los Angeles, right?
No, we shot the movie in Ithaca.
Oh, that's right. You just said it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's an Ithaca car wash. That's pretty amazing.
Yes. And they just had this crazy, and now it's in real life, it isn't that crazy that in post, everything is getting some love that pops everything out more. But I remember when we set it up, see, this is the kind of like small, like when you're thinking minimum to produced maximum, this something like putting a camera in a car wash and going through it is a great example of like minimum effort for maximum results. Yeah. Because it's just a car wash. It's no big deal. But there's this great wide shot. There's a moon roof.
Yep.
And even without the crazy lights, we just knew it would just be cool.
It just looked great.
So Doug got it all set up. My director of photography was amazing cinematographer, but has a pretty funny, dry sense of humor. And after we got through the car wash, he was just like, "Was that better than sex?" I think maybe it was. Like, just to be a DP, looking at the monitor and seeing this thing happen. We set it up and just, who knows, is it going to be good? And to go through it and to go, oh my God, the amount of result from, and this is just one of those lessons I would love to impart on other independent filmmakers out there, is you look for opportunities to get maximum result from minimum effort.
Right.
Yeah. That's the art. That's the art of it right there. That's fantastic. Because that part came on and I said, "Look at that." And Jen goes, Is that a post thing? I go, I'm not entirely sure.
It's a little of both. Yeah. And so you want to just, I want to, from now on, everything I make, I'm just going to always think of that car wash and just think, I got to find a
Just make all your movies at that car wash from now on. It's easy.
There's a ton of great shots in that movie.
Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Oh, and a lot of those really hyper close-up ones reminded me of you strictly. Like, I think that was your idea, even though your DP shot it.
No, those were all, I shot all those.
You shot the. See, I knew it.
Yeah, so those were.
They look a lot like the interesting short films you would make just for fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you remembered that.
Great close things like that really were. You're looking at it going, I'm not entirely sure what I'm looking at, but it's fantastic.
That's another maximum, result from just. I mean, all it is using a macro, lens and trying to get closer and closer and so like little things, like there's a shot of a feather duster going over a record player, but it's just so wild. Yeah,
it's
gorgeous.
Yeah, so cool.
As long as we're geeking out on this stuff, my personal favorite shot, I don't know why, it just was. It's toward the end. Okay, I'm not going to give anything away, but she's sitting in a car, and the hatchback to her car opens up and reveals the woods behind her.
Yes.
There's something about that shot that just really was like, oh man, I was like, that is beautiful.
That's
like
a
watch
good
that over and
example
over
of,
again.
that was kind of like a design principle. So we did not stick to one shot per scene in this movie, but we were like no more than 3 shots per scene. We were very strict on like trying to keep things as austere as possible.
Okay.
And so that's a good example of like playing with that Z space where we've got her, you know, she's in a close up as she's driving, and then she parks, then she goes around, and then she opens the hatchback. Now she's in something of a wide, but we've got this cool window that we're shooting through, which is the car itself is a window. And
Yeah.
So really cool.
I love putting that kind of stuff together.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It was great.
Yeah, right. A lot of fun. Like I'm doing it. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. A lot of fun to watch. I'm sure it's fun to make too.
It was a lot. I mean, it was the most fun I've had. I mean, this is the most fun I have since all I want to do is be on set and make movies. So I waited 15 years to do another one, and it's the most fun. I want to do it again as soon as possible.
Cool. I bet. Now, I wanted to ask you this too. I'll ask this again later in a different way, but if you can remember, what was the genesis of making you want to make films? What started it for you? What was the catalyst?
I'll tell a story I've never told before. It's not much of a story. That's probably why I never told it before. And it's also like a possibly cheesy movie that was kind of the inspiration behind the story. It's a movie I have not rewatched since it came out. But I've always just loved movies. And I do remember, before I get to the cheesy movie who I don't want to name, I'll just say, like, I, as a young person, always loved going to the movies. And I specifically remember being in the movie theater watching Willow. And thinking like how cool, like at the time of being a film director of such a thing, like looking at Willow and how cool that movie felt when I saw it in the theater as a little kid. And just thinking, like, to me, film directing was the same as like becoming an astronaut or becoming the president.
Cool.
You know, like you don't apply for this job. Like I can just remember being like, how do you even get this?
Yeah.
And so I was always way into movies. And in high school, I didn't know I wanted to be a film director yet when I was in middle school and high school. But I subscribed to Fangoria magazine, and I would, I guess that's kind of the earliest genesis, was just getting into horror movies. I was a real scaredy cat as a young person, and my aunt and uncle and cousins were all into horror movies. So every time I'd visit them, it would be like a trial by fire. Like, okay, am I gonna be able to sit through Texas Chainsaw? Like, not this year, but maybe Pet Sematary. And then I remember watching Pet Sematary and staying up literally the entire night because I had to pee, but I couldn't put my bed on the floor because Gage might cut my Achilles tendon. You know, like just being up the entire night. But I got bit by the horror bug through I think all those memories, or all those times as a kid hanging out with my relatives and just being actually scared. My other early, like, super scared moment was like watching Creepshow. I watched Creepshow at my aunt's house, but then I went back to my grandmother's, and my great grandmother was still alive, and she snored really loudly, and I was in the other room and I could hear her snoring, but for some reason I just kept picturing the zombie dad from Creepshow dragging a chair across the floor. So the sound of her snores were like a chair.
Wow.
Anyway, so back into high school, I'm reading Fangoria magazine, and like, not just reading Fangoria, but religiously, like, I would be like
pouring over it.
And I'm going to make sure I read every word, so on every page, including like the advertisements. You know, I'm going to make sure when I finish this magazine, I've read every word of it. And then I was in 10th grade, and maybe I was in 9th or 10th grade, and I was hanging out with a girl, my girlfriend at the time. And we used to watch movies together. And now, okay, I'm going to say this movie. I don't know if this is a good movie, but we were watching this movie. Do you remember this movie from the 90s, Threesome?
No.
I don't think so.
It's kind of a romantic comedy. I think it's 2 guys and a girl.
Okay.
But they're like best friends. And then they end up having a threesome, like a second. They're threesome because they're best friends. And then they end up having like a sexual threesome, and it makes things complicated. Maybe.
Right.
Okay. I feel like it was one of those movies that was like, post Pulp Fiction, independent film boom movies, like made by like a Fine Line or a Focus or something, like, with a sizable budget, but still like technically like an indie film.
Right.
Okay, I haven't seen it in a long time, but just in the movie, one of the characters is going to film school, And my girlfriend at the time was like, you should go to film school. And that was pretty much it. That's this whole story is just to say, like, I was obsessed with movies, and then it took someone else saying to me, you could do that, for me to click into my brain to like, oh yeah, maybe from this, I was probably 16 at the time. I feel like it's been 30 years since that moment of saying, this is the thing, this is it.
Just an interesting comment like that could turn your life.
Yeah. I should probably tell her that. I should probably reach out to her
You
one
should
day. Tell her that like I really trace it back to this, like, just aside. She just said, you should go to film school.
That's amazing.
You might like that.
So I have a similar story. I'm not going to turn it back on me, but I just want to tell you.
Please do.
I have a very, very similar story. I took an elective course. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I was about 27 years old. I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. So I said, okay, let me take some college courses. Let me see, maybe I can get back into that. And there was a creative writing elective. I said, I can probably ace that, So I took that creative writing course, and the teacher had said to me, you need to submit, to submit these stories. And that was it. That was like all I needed to hear.
Someone else telling you, like, these are good. Why aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. So when Facebook came around, I got on Facebook and I found her. I reached out to her, and she barely remembered me. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but she turned out to be a real, seriously hardcore Christian, and like fundamentalist.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And so it just put a real strain on on the relations there. So anyway, that's just the long story.
Yeah. But there was basically
that
moment.
There was that moment. And it's so funny how like I was like, you don't realize like how that comment that you said to me, you need to submit these stories, how that redirected my life from that point on.
Yeah, we have these things that we hold on to, and they can be negative too. I remember this one teacher. Just I can remember so this one teacher that everybody was in love with, including me. Not in love with, just loved, like being in her class, and like was really inspired by. And like I had her in 9th grade. She was an English teacher. I had her in 9th grade, and okay, I'm going to dig into this story for a minute because I think she was probably like some like wacko libertarian, but because she was all about teaching the Fountainhead, and so then like her 12th graders, would read the Fountainhead and then become like obsessed with objectivism, and back then we didn't realize that was like a right-wing thing. It was kind of like, oh, this is cool. It's almost like a hippie thing, to like
for sure
to go this like Ayn Rand route. Anyway, I had her in 9th grade. That was her first year, and it was like an honors English class. And I was and my friends at the time were all seniors, and they all had her in AP English. So I was like, I'm going to get to that AP English class because she was such an inspiring English teacher, and I wanted to read all these books that were changing their lives and get to that. So anyway, I don't think she really thought much of me, but I thought a lot of her. And I got to her class. I was also kind of a slacker, to be honest. It's not all her fault, but like I don't think I ever read The Fountainhead. I started it and I found it to be really boring and never got through it. And she probably knew I read the Cliff's Notes. But I was in AP English with her, and what really pissed her off, I think, is that now I'm just ragging on her. But what really pissed her off, and Alec, you're gonna like this.
Okay.
For your AP English to pass it, you have to take like the college exam. This is in high school. It's my only AP credit. I was a pretty bad student, but I did great in English, and because I love books. And you had to have a topic to write about. It was like an essay test, right, to pass to get your AP credit. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to say her name, but talking to the teacher, I was like, well, I'm going to do William S. Burroughs.
Oh, cool. And
she was just like, you're making a huge mistake. She did not. She was not a fan of Burroughs, and I was at the height of my Burroughs love at this time, and she was like, "You're going to fail," Like I don't think she thought enough of me, and she for darn sure didn't think enough of Burroughs. Yeah. But I was like, "Fuck that! I'm going to do it anyway." And I wrote about Burroughs, and I passed. I got the AP credit. My Burroughs essay did pass AP English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, that whole story was just to bring up William S. Burroughs, but
of course.
But the next year, or 2 years later, when I was going to leave Alabama to go to Iowa to go to film school, I popped by the school to say bye to a few teachers. And again, this was someone who I felt a very strong like desire to please, and all of the friends that I looked up to had like connected with her, and I wanted to like have that connection too, and like have my brain expanded by great books by her. And so I found her and like doing some photocopies, And I was like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to film school. Just wanted to say bye. And she goes, film school, huh? And you want to make movies? And I was like, yeah. And she just barely looked at me and she said, well, that's a lot of work. Implying, you don't have the gumption for it. You don't have the.
You sure you've thought this out?
Yeah, that's what it was. It was heartbreaking. And to this day, I only tell this whole story similar to your story, Paul. Like first off, I doubt she didn't even remember me, but she for sure, even if she remembers me, she for sure does not remember this little aside that she made to me while she was making photocopies 2 years after I graduated high school. But it has stuck with me ever since.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
You got to know that when you say anything to somebody, make sure you're saying what you mean, because it sticks sometimes.
It sticks.
People carry it around.
Yeah.
Yeah, good and bad.
Especially a young artist, for sure.
Yeah.
Like Ellison, right? That story. Stop writing crap.
Stop writing crap.
Yeah,
But,
I'm afraid.
I thought.
Go ahead.
I thought you were going to say she looked at a film student. Huh? What's your first film going to be about? Burrows.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think Cronenberg's Naked Lunch was out, but I'm sure she never saw it.
Right. No, she wouldn't watch it.
I think she was very dismissive of Burroughs and never got over the
tragic.
fact I didn't take her her advice and not do Burroughs.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
Attaboy. Good for you. I'm going to do a paper on William Burroughs.
Yes.
That's awesome. Now, okay, so you kind of already answered the next question. I was going to say, would your career have been inspired more by films or books? And I'm not going to make any judgments or guesses, but if the answer is both, what would you say the ratio is?
Gosh. It's a weird thing because films are my greatest like physical passion, where I want to put my energy. And I probably flirt as a very young person, as in like fifth grade. I remember always going to young authors conference. Like I wanted to do books. Like books were the thing, and so I would go to young authors conferences and do some writing. But really, past elementary school and middle school, like it's only ever been film. That said, I only have maybe 40 DVDs, but if you go look in my library, I have hundreds and hundreds of books, and I've gotten rid of more books than I have. I could fill up a house with books. Books
Gotcha.
are a true obsession, and I don't know that I've ever really thought about the way you phrase the question, like what the influence is, but I think that great writing is hits me harder than anything else that in the world. But I kind of put a fence around books in my soul, because they're that's it's almost like my special thing that I'm not trying to do. And so I've got my library, I've got my passion, I surround myself with books, but I don't know if I think of them as inspirations in terms of the content I'm trying to create, the films I'm trying to make. I'm not sure. What do you think?
I was going to say, I bet it's books, because it's especially I guess with both of these films, entrance and interaction. I think more so with interaction, you seem to be fascinated with the inner world.
Yes,
and I think only somebody who's a book reader can be fascinated with such a thing to that degree as to render it with such competence.
I mean, I love that, and I feel like I'm
That's
gaining
really good.
Some insight into myself I didn't really have before, because I was saying, I kind of keep books on this pedestal, but I spend, in terms of what do I care? When people ask me why did I move back to LA, I always say because I want to read books, not mow grass. That's why I moved back here, is to have a little yard and a little house, and because I do because my wife Michelle is an amazing costume supervisor, and she's booked solid 24/7. So I got the two kids, great. and I do all the housework and grocery shopping and stuff. Happily do all that. And to add on top of that, shoveling snow and mowing grass, it meant for 5 years I barely read a book, and that was the biggest tragedy in my life. But when I think about how do I spend my time, day to day, what do I reach for my ears? I love music, but more than music, more than podcasts, I listen to audiobooks. And then what do I make sure, no matter what, to do every day? It's not watch a movie, or it's to read. I spend almost all my free time pursuing that. And I think that's like the real hidden passion of the real passion of my life. And that comes from my mother. You know, I was raised by a reader. All my greatest early gifts in life were books that she cared about.
That's great.
Before she died, we shared, our favorite author is the Southern writer, Walker Percy. And we made pilgrimages to his grave. My oldest son is named Walker after Walker Percy.
Oh, that's great. That's cool.
Yeah, I think books are the real passion.
Yeah.
I think, didn't I see a picture of your son in Interaction?
You did. And
yeah, I thought so.
I didn't have permission for that. And he is getting me a lot of grief because he's 14 now. I mean, he was older too in that picture. I mean, I used a little picture of him. But yes, that was just the necessity. It was really kind of an on the day. Sure. We need this thing. And here it is. Here's this picture. And so he used it. And yeah, he was like,
I'm like, I've seen that face on the socials before. Yes. Look at that kid.
So, well, you probably have. So you've seen that face on the socials. You have not seen his older face because they're at an age now where they define, their usage, right? They're like,
sure.
It's pretty funny, but my Instagram feed is like kids, and then it's years of dogs because the kids are like, don't post that.
Sure. They're becoming aware.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Do you prefer writing or directing?
I prefer directing. I have only just now. So I just wrote a script by myself for the first time in forever. And so I wrote, when I went to college, I didn't take any screenwriting. The college I went to was University of Iowa, and it was an amazing experience, but it was a very experimental film focused experience. And I think if I was to critique it at all, I would say I wish that my younger self was forced to take some screenwriting classes and forced to take, like I was saying earlier, some career management classes. Like, what do you like? They didn't seem to be having students. They didn't seem to expect that students would like go try to actually work in this business that they were going to school for. So that would be a minor critique of the program, but it was a life-changing program that I loved dearly. But when I got to LA, I hadn't done any screenwriting. And so when I finally got around to doing some screenwriting, I wrote a couple scripts myself. And then, but then pretty quickly I ended up working with Pat Horvath. And so then we co-wrote together for years because we did Entrance, we did the Pack 2, we co-wrote Southbound, among other specs. We wrote 3 or 4 other spec things together. And then I kind of moved into my corporate life for a long time. And then an Interaction I co-wrote with Adam, and then Adam and I co-wrote, another 3 scripts after Interaction. And we got a pile of good scripts that we're sitting on.
Cool.
Nice.
But recently, that's all to say, at 46, I just fell in love with writing because I wrote this kind of punk rock vampire-ish screenplay.
Oh, you're talking to Paul now.
Yes, it's vampire-ish, but it's like, do y'all know the movie Martin, the George Romero film?
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like Martin meets Green Room. It's like it's like maybe he's a vampire, maybe he's just crazy.
Interesting.
But I wrote that script in a blur, and I loved every second of writing it, and just like kind of fell in love with writing for the first up until age 46. Writing was like either a chore or really, 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 really hard to do, and I would always say to myself, I wish I was already like a famous, successful director and people just gave me scripts. And, I think that never happened, and necessity meant write my own. But but directing is the most fun. I mean, that's all I really want to do. It's the most fun thing in the world. And if I could just go on set every single day and just direct, that's what I would do.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Cool. Fun.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. But I have recently, I know this is a literary podcast, so I will say I have recently fallen in love with writing, and I'm writing every morning. I get up early, I write every morning, and I'm actually enjoying it for the first time.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's the reason enough to move all that way. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could start enjoying it. One of these days I will.
Right.
But
it's
not a chore. I'm like, it's always a fucking chore. What are you talking about?
It's pain.
Sure. It's always hard. Yeah,
it is pain.
It's like that's why I just stick with short stories. I'm like, I just want to get this fucking thing over with. I can't stop. That's my problem. I tried to stop. I can't.
Don't stop.
But anyway.
Never stop.
Never stop. Jesus.
So
Anyway, sorry.
no, you're good, dude. You're good. You've got your shit published, dude. So you're on the right track. You're doing fine.
I'm doing all right. Diane would be proud. Diane was the name of the teacher. She'd be proud, I guess.
That's awesome.
For steering me there, I guess. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know, right?
Maybe she's gonna look at it and say, "Oh my God, you're on your way to hell."
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us a little bit of what it feels like to put so much of yourself into a project and pour all this time and love into it, and then show it to a bunch of fucking strangers at a film premiere. And sit there with them and wait.
Man, it's terrifying. Yeah. So
it's like a jury exam.
We premiered. Well, so I showed the movie to a crowd in Ithaca, and that was difficult, but it wasn't quite done yet. And I feel like it had a good response, but there was a good half the crowd that was, I think, overly troubled by it. And not that I would back down. It's a movie that, I think especially when you make a movie at this level, you have to just tell the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what we said the whole time we were making the movie, is that we were just going to tell the truth. And if we can't, there's one scene in the movie where she's looking at like a stack of Polaroids and we don't see what's on them. And like, that's because whatever's on them is, it's too gruesome. If I was to see it, it would have to be true. And I don't want to even show it.
Yep.
And so, anyway, that's all to say that it's a pretty gnarly movie, and the Ithaca premiere, like half the crowd was a little edgy about it afterward.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
But Ithaca is also a very sensitive, very, very progressive town, very forward thinking, but a little bit kind of, the crowd, I think some of the crowd were like looking for trigger warnings,
Can I interject with something here that I think might hit to the heart of their reaction?
Mm-hmm.
This is going to sound like a criticism. I assure you it's not.
Sure.
There's a philosophical pessimism to the story.
Yeah.
To Entrance too, a little bit, but especially to this one too. And I was wondering. We need philosophical pessimism in art. I wouldn't want every piece of art to be like that, but we definitely need it. And anyone who's been listening to the podcast would know that I go on about the importance of horror to deal with reality and so forth. But I'm wondering if maybe they were reacting to that, and I guess there's a corollary question, which is, do you have that bent? Do you find that you have that bent?
I more and more as I get older, I think this happens to all old people, but like I feel pessimist. I feel pessimistic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The younger version of myself assumed that things would bend a certain way, the arc of history and all that, and that it was just inevitable. And then now as I get older, I was like, why would I assume it was inevitable? I don't know why, and I don't. So just at the risk of really sounding like an old person,
it's okay.
I think that up until recently, it was always the old farts that would say back in my day, it was better. And we would laugh at them because it wasn't. And I think that, and I'm not alone here.
Maybe it was.
Well, something, I think that the Gen X is in a unique position because it was better. And the world is, we have moved in, we took a wrong turn into hell world, and I don't know the way out, so I don't want to make art that just gives false hope.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
the responsibility of, I guess, the modern horror writer, meaning anybody who's writing after Lovecraft, is to highlight the reality of horror in the world in any way possible, and use all the tools at your disposal to do so.
Yeah.
Because I think that it is important, and that it is going to change according. This is why I said since Lovecraft, because before Lovecraft, I think there was a different responsibility of the horror writer. You were highlighting different aspects of mortality and so forth. But I'm kind of riffing here.
No, I'm under your spell right now. I think I'm like this is. I'm taking this in. This is good stuff.
Okay. Well, it is. Okay. So with Entrance, here we go. Then put your put your diving gear on. in entrance and in interaction, the horror enters the stories unbidden. I think, where you're kind of not expecting it to take the turns. Both those movies, to take the turns that they do. At least I wasn't totally.
And it's unwarranted. I think that's the thing that bugs some people, especially with interaction. Is like, what the main character does to this other person is it's unwarranted completely.
Yeah, and I think that's important because without that, and again, I'm speaking from the modernist point of view. Without that, the world already is making horror and death mundane.
Right.
And I think if you don't show it like that it comes up out of the floors at you when you're least expecting it. If you don't show that, then you can't rise above the mundanity of death in the world and horror in the world, because we have to keep being afraid. We have to keep being afraid of it.
It's true.
If we stop being afraid, that's going to be really bad.
You're right. You're reminding me so much, and I feel like scolding myself because I always like to have this quote. And I used to have this quote front and center in my brain. There's the Jewish philosopher Abraham Heschel, and I remember hearing this interview with him where he would just talk about encountering the world and just being surprised, staying surprised. And he didn't mean that in a good way. He fought in the trenches during civil rights, and he meant surprised at his fellow man. Surprised, like not saying, "Oh yeah, this is just how people are," but no, like surprised at the Nazis. Not just saying, so we all know that groups of people get together and do X. Instead of doing that, saying, I'm shocked. And maintain that surprise. I'd like to bring that back into. I think that would be an addition to like my work moving forward. That might be interesting is to not flinch from the truth, but to try to be surprised at it.
Yeah,
and that could be a way to try to find not so much optimism, but just to try to like find the soul.
Well, do you think that? Well, do you think that's your job to do that, or would you rather? In other words, I don't mean to sound that sounded like a dickish thing to say.
No, not at all. And I think it's a good challenge. The truth is that I don't. When I set out to make a movie, the truth is that this may sound pretentious, but I really just follow the piece. And so Interaction was a train that left the station. And here's a super quick, and I do want to come back to Alec. You asked me about the premiere, but a real quick summary of what makes Interaction interesting to me, and like what I mean by following the piece is that this isn't the movie that I set out to make. Like when we wrote the script, we wrote the script to be like Body Double, to be a Brian De Palma movie.
Okay.
And it had it was fast paced and had action, and it was sleazy in all the fun ways. And then it was like during the process of developing it into pre-production is when I fell in love with the idea of making like a slow cinema movie. And it was going to be even slower and more, the total other side of the spectrum, more austere, no music, no movement in the shots, all locked off shots, very austere. And then while shooting it, I was watching a lot of Ozu films and Robert Bresson films, but especially Ozu films, which are they're austere in some ways, but like full of life and joy in other ways.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
And so it kind of morphed into this the picture has like a unique style, which is like, it kind of feels like a slow cinema movie, except it's not really doing all the slow cinema rules because it's very operatic with all that music and camera movement and high emotions. Sure. And then in the post process, I remember staring at the final image of the film and the juxtaposition of the final image, which is beautiful, and what you're hearing, which is not, with the music that's playing. I picked that music out when I was in that cabin in the woods, and it took my breath away, the combination of the music, the image, and what she's listening to. And I just I had to put it down for a bit because I got so scared at how beautiful I thought it was, which really kind of fucked me up. And I was like,
okay. This is interesting because this is where I was kind of going with what I just asked you, because I was thinking of Theodore Sturgeon, the science fiction writer, who said, he wrote two stories in particular. One was called Bianca's Hands, and the other one was Some of Your Blood.
Okay,
And they both-
I just read Some of Your Blood for the first time like a month ago.
Okay, good.
And I never
Isn't
read
it
any other
wonderful?
Sturgeon before, so it's funny you bring it up. But yeah, keep going.
Okay, good. Did you want to throw the book across the room when you got to the end? By any chance?
Well,
Like
I was
did?
just kind of, honestly was kind of bored by it. I love the
Oh,
subject.
really?
I love the
I'm
subject
sorry.
matter. No, I love
Yeah.
it. I actually read it because of that vampire movie I was writing. Like, I was like, oh,
okay.
there's some similarities here. And I'm
Okay.
doing my first scene. His was all about menstrual blood, and just spoiler alert
Yeah.
on my vampire movie. That's like the first scene in the movie. Again, it's not a spoiler.
Okay.
It's the first page of the script. But
Yeah.
So I checked out the book for that reason. I think just the mode of the storytelling, well, I don't want to get into my review of that story.
No,
You keep going.
That's okay. I totally get that because it's not exemplary of his work.
Okay.
But it was the execution of the way he tells the story out is to the point that I'm making is he said himself is that what the problem that people have with that story and the other one, Bianca's Hands, is that the main characters are okay with what they're doing. They're both kind of horrible, evil people, and the fact that they're okay is what's unnerving people.
Yes.
And so that's why I was saying, I guess this speaks to your thing about just shooting the truth, is that that's all you need to do is shoot the truth. And if you're doing it in such a way that's going to where you're saying, hey, look, these people are okay with it, she's okay with what she's doing, her part in all this stuff. And
well, yeah, not just okay, but I remember
reveling in it.
Yeah, the only bit of direction I gave, I did very little directing of Susie because Susie's so brilliant, and we also spent a long time preparing for the role. So on the day, she just did what she did her thing, and most direction was just like how we set up the shots and stuff. But for that final shot, which was near the end of our shoot, the only piece of direction I gave her was revelation. This is a moment. She was
Nice.
like, what am I getting out of this? And I said, this is a moment of revelation.
Yeah.
And I think that really comes across in her face and her eyes.
Yeah, sure. It sure does.
And it freaked me out because it's like, this isn't, like you said, there's no judgment here. And if we're like experiencing, there's a poem that I came across. I don't remember. I'll have to find it later. But all about death and beauty. And I read the poem after making the movie, but it was kind of how I began to understand that the final of my movie, where there is this profundity to the mixture of death and beauty here that goes beyond, any judgments that I might have or whatever I'm trying to say. And you can only find, again, at the risk of sounding pretentious, you can only find this stuff if you're just following the work. You can't like set out and say, well, I'm going to make sure that I check these boxes or I'm doing this kind of thing. You can do that, but then you're making like a slasher movie, which is fine. I love slasher movies.
Sure.
But you're not following the work necessarily and like getting to anything deeper.
I gotcha. Interesting. That's really cool.
But to circle real quick back on the premiere, I was so nervous. My wife gave me, it wasn't like a Xanax. It was some sort of pill. I don't know what it was. Some kind of a beta blocker, whatever that means.
Sure.
But it was some sort of beta blocker that she gave me. And she was like, well, you can take this if you need it. And so I did take it to try to, because my stomach was upset. I was like quivering. I just, this movie to me it's a kind of a bold swing, and I really just don't know how not only do I not know if people are going to be mad at it because of how gnarly it is in the third act, but also will they even get there? Because it's slow and it's just a certain kind of movie, and I'm always afraid of people being bored in my movies before they get to the end.
Well, I'll interrupt you there because I think you don't have a whole lot to worry about, because it comes across, even if that part is shocking, which it is to anyone, you can tell this film was made with a passion, with somebody who wanted to make it and wanted to make it really fucking well. So, you sit there and you go, well, I hope I don't upset people. Well, fuck them if you do, because you did this correctly. You did the whole thing correctly, and you took your time, and it shows.
Thank you.
And as Aaron Sorkin says, if they're shooting at you, you're doing something right.
Right.
But it's also, I was going to say, I don't want to harp on this, but I have ADHD, and it takes a lot to hook me. So, and I was hooked from the beginning. in this. You know,
Okay,
so
thank you.
so the fact, you know, you did it very well of leading one thing leading to the next, and having that hook be just far enough away where I'm reaching and I'm going further and going further. And so well done.
Well, that's great to hear. That,
Yeah.
I mean, that was always the stress, you know, with entrance also. Entrance is a little bit different because it really is like nothing much seems to be happening for the first 60 minutes. And every screening we'd have of that movie, I'd be sitting there so nervous because I could hear the audience getting a little bit antsy, and I could just watching the movie like, okay, everybody just stay with it. Because as soon as the party scene started, which is like an hour in, I knew I was good. You know, it was like a roller coaster. I had to get up to the top of that hill with an audience. And it's like, I don't even know why I'm being nervous. Like this isn't a live performance. Like nothing's going to change. The movie is what it is. These people are here.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the danger of that comes with following the piece, because I don't really have a say, you know, the movie once the train leaves the station, like I'm not, you know, I can't go back and recut interaction any other way than what it is. Cause in all absolute honesty, this movie is exactly what it was going to be.
Yeah, yeah. And it's easy for me to say, you have nothing to worry about. You did the fucking best job. But I'm not the one who put in all the hours and all the time and all the hope and then sit there in the dark and go, oh, fuck. You know, it's got to be nerve-wracking. It has to be nerve-wracking.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
You know what just hit me following the piece? I used to say something, I haven't said it to myself in a while, but I used to say this to myself all the time, write the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
I used to say that all the time. And it was just my little mantra to just, if I was ever stuck, that was going to be, I'm just going to write the next thing.
Yeah.
And write the next thing that happens in the story. And you get to that, like, you just got to, I don't mean to sound pretentious either here, but you got to give yourself to it, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to drop back here because, you know, my unconscious, my subconscious is playing right now, you know, so I'm going to let it play.
Yes.
Just watch it. I'm going to watch it do its thing. You know?
If you do that, then you have the best results. Just let the real thing. Yeah. Don't try to plan it. Just have the next thing come that's real.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if it's crazy.
Yeah.
Especially if it's crazy.
Especially if it's crazy.
No. All right. So it's the short horror beer cast, right? So we're going to steer this discussion strictly towards horror now. Okay. And I don't know how much time you've got left, but we can make this like a rapid fire thing if you want.
No, we don't have to.
You got time?
I got time.
Okay. The best horror film that got you like all whipped up at an early age.
Okay. I all my favorite stories, because I always, you know, I don't know if y'all listen to the podcast, the King Cast.
I don't actually.
It's a Stephen King podcast, and whenever people come on, they always ask them like their Stephen King origin story. So I've had mine prepared for a long time in the hopes that one day they'd have me on. I don't think it's going to ever happen, so I'm going to go ahead and give my Stephen King origin story here. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give it to you guys. They can go jump in a lake. So I grew up. I mean, like I was saying earlier, my mother was a very big reader. Books were a really huge part of my life from the very beginning. I was also a scaredy cat growing up. And so my first memory, Stephen King's is the beginning of all the horror stuff.
Sure.
Now my memories of Stephen King were confined to, so my mother had two sisters. My mother was the oldest of three, and she had two sisters. Her youngest, my Aunt Dorothy, because she was the youngest, even though she had left home, her room was still kept, I had never changed. And this is at my grandmother's house. So when I'd visit, I'd stay in Dorothy's room, which had like pink walls. And it just felt very different because it was this one room in the house it had been this cool teenager's room, not that long ago, and it had never changed. But one of the things in that room was a shelf of Stephen King paperbacks. And these were great paperbacks. Like it was like the first, none of these were first edition hardbacks, but they were like first edition paperbacks. So like the Shining cover that was like a mirror, with a blank face, or the Night Shift cover where it was just eyeballs, but they were cut out. So when you turned it, you would see the hand behind it.
That's right. I remember that one.
So I would look at these covers, but I would just be scared by them alone. And then I would get, I would be scared. I would have anxiety about having, like, not even having nightmares, but anxiety about having nightmares, being in that room and being near these books.
Yeah. I can totally vibe with that. Totally
but it was
100%.
it was imprinted on me. These books were imprinted, and then I never read any out of her collection. And so you fast forward, I just look at them in fear, and I can probably remember what they all were. It was Night Shift, the Bachman books, The Dead Zone, The Shining, and The Talisman. These were all paperbacks, and then the only other paperback there was Peter Straub's Ghost Story. So those were sitting there staring at me.
That's great.
Flashing forward to 6th grade, I was in Boy Scouts, and I was on a Boy Scout trip, and I can't remember what it's called. Like, there's like the troop leader, there's like the adults that are in charge of things in Boy Scouts, but then like in the Scouts, there's like someone's the quartermaster, someone's the treasurer, someone's the historian, and then whoever like the leader, whatever that's called, like the pack leader, who was like also a scout. It was this guy who. This is another one that I should reach out to some time. Just a guy who I thought was literally the coolest person in the entire world. Okay. And his two big things were comic books and Stephen King. And because of him, I became obsessed with comic books. Cool. And then here in 6th grade, we would go on camping trips, and he would have a backpack that he had with him filled with Stephen King paperbacks, because he would just read them over and over again. And it was kind of like a Kindle, but it was a backpack filled with paperbacks.
Cool.
So we were on a bus ride.
It's a very analog Kindle.
Yeah, I was heading out into the woods, and I was like, dude, man, I'm like, can I read one of these? And he handed me it. For some reason, he handed me it. And it was the paperback.
Because it's to lighten the load on the backpack. That's why.
So I went to the back of the bus, and I laid down on the floor and started reading it. And I was just hooked, hooked.
Your mind just cracked open.
Yes, and and it was also like, I'm finally reading the thing that, for years it was at my Aunt Dorothy's shelf, and I'd always been too scared of, but here I am, and she didn't have it on that shelf, but it was a very known thing, and I was looking at this.
Yeah.
So I started reading it, but then someone called a dog pile on me, and a dog pile is like, when someone yells dog pile, and then but it was called on me. So all of a sudden, like 30 boys piled on me. And by the time the melee was over, the cover had been ripped off the book. So when I went to go give it back to this dude, he just seemed so disappointed. And I was like, but I got dog piled on.
But the dog pile, see?
Yeah. So like the next week, my mother took me, there was a local chain in Birmingham called Little Professor Books. And she took me to Little Professor, and I picked out 2 Stephen King books. I think I got Night Shift for myself and Skeleton Crew to give to this dude to like as a makeup present, because again,
that's
I thought
cool.
he was the coolest guy in the world. So when I went to go give it to him that week at Scouts, I thought he was like upset with me for the cover getting ripped off, but he had like already forgotten about it. He was because it was no big deal really, and he was like, "Oh man, I already have that book. You keep it. You read it." So I think for my age, many people, I'm 46, and I think for any 46-year-old Stephen King lovers, you probably started with Night Shift and Skeleton Crew. You just had those 2 books, read those 2 books, and I was fucking hooked, man. So I started plowing through King all through 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. And then being in the South, Robert R. McCammon was a big thing at the time.
Cool.
Right, sure.
So, because Boy's Life was like kind of a crossover hit, that book, to like the normies got into it. So I read Boy's Life, but then I read Swan Song and everything else he wrote. And then Brian Lumley was a big deal at the time with all those vampire books. But of course, the real getting into the real hard stuff was Clive Barker. There was the Clive Barker. So it was probably 7th grade. So around 7th or 8th grade, me and these 2 other dudes, I'm not naming any names on this podcast, but we went through a period of our lives of being major shoplifters at the local Kmart. And we would go to Kmart, and then we would like shoplift so much shit that it was like dumb stuff. Like I remember one time that my bro like took a hammer. Like, why are we stealing a hammer? And so, but because we were nerds, we also shoplifted books. And
that the statute of limitations on hammer theft is 33 years.
Wait, okay, I think I'm okay. That was 7th grade.
Okay.
Oh, maybe I should
think you're good.
Now.
We'll cut it out.
They'd have to cross state lines. But so Kmart had 4 Clive Barker books. The Hellbound Heart, And these were paperbacks. It was the Hellbound Heart, and it was the one with like the bodies making up a shape of a skull or a heart or something.
Yep.
And then they had the first 3 books of blood, and these were the crappiest, like, because they were in Britain. He wasn't, I mean, Hellraiser had already been out, but he still wasn't like the biggest thing in the world. So these were some shitty paperbacks. Like on the covers of them, they had like dumb, dime store mask with like gummy worms, like just trying to be like, someone like marketed. The marketing on them was so strange because if you pick these books up, they're like beyond anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my friend stole a copy of the Hellbound Heart, and I'll never forget. This was in 7th grade. We used to go to the library every day to hang out because we were nerds, and wait for our moms to pick us up. So we'd walk from school to the library, and he'd be reading from the Hellbound Heart like you would like a book of Penthouse letters. You just walking down the street, 2 boys, 7th grade, reading the Penthouse letters. But because we were fucking nerds, were reading the Hellbound Heart.
That's cool.
I have so many memories of like, I can see everything. And I'd seen Hellraiser already by this point because I was obsessed. But Hellbound Heart is I mean, Hellraiser is really good, but Hellbound Heart's kind of a different thing, when you really read the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really, I would say, Stephen King, Clive Barker is, I think, the all-time god. I think in some ways King's has a bigger impact on me because, because he's an American, I'm American, and he's telling stories of here and here, and also King is such a huge part of the culture and has been around literally my entire life. And Clive Barker, the stories were so out there, and also he hasn't stayed in the culture the same way, so I don't think about him as much anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But when I was in 8th, 9th grade, I would have said Barker is my favorite. When I was reading Great Secret Show and Everville and Imagica. And
oh my God, Imagica's crazy.
Yeah.
Yep. That's good. Yeah. And I know you're a fan of Hellraiser 2.
Oh yeah, dude. Hellbound is the jam.
That movie fucking
we all agree, right?
When I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Hellbound is like so great.
The Leviathan, that just bothered the shit out of me.
The movie's not afraid to make no sense. I mean, I think, but that's the problem with so many movies that once you're spending like 10, 20, $30 million on a movie, you're very scared of for the movie not making perfect sense. And Hellbound is so crazy because it really doesn't make, nothing.
Yeah, it's nuts. Up. It's a nutty movie that just made me feel inside out when I left. I was like, oh my God, what the hell? Yeah. But I've talked to Paul about this before too, that quickly, my favorite bit is Dr. Chenard when he's stuffed into that sarcophagus thing, and all his blood's getting removed, and they're pumping in some sick fluid into him, and he's just like, and he gets dropped down, and he's gone.
I know, right? And that weird set of things that come over his face.
Yeah, he's got wires across his face, and it's awful. It's terrible. And then he comes back up transformed. He's transmutated into this awful, awful thing, and he looks around, and he just says, "And to think I hesitated."
Yes, I know. It's so
and it fucking bothered the shit out of me, dude. I was like, oh my God, he loves that. That's awful.
Why would you love it? Why would you love it? The fact that you love it is I saw bits and pieces of Hellbound like late at night on HBO at sleepovers.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have HBO, but my friend had HBO, and so we would see crazy shit late at night on HBO. And Hellbound, I saw that before I ever saw the first Hellraiser because that was just like that was like an HBO standby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that's the stuff it was like the stuff that makes Hellbound so scary is so Julia's back. Julia wanted to come out of the world, but now she's happy. But then when you're back in Hell's, the power dynamics are constantly shifting, and there's no explanation for why the power dynamics are shifting. It's just a wild movie.
Yeah, it was a rough one. I saw it, I've got 10 years on you, so I saw it in the theater when it came out.
Okay.
And I left there going, I feel like I ate something greasy. My guts just feel terrible. I don't know what to do. That really bothered me. It was like,
what else fucks you up with that movie? And this is what Barker is so good at is I know he didn't direct Hellbound, but I still feel like it's his. This is his DNA. It's when Julia comes out of the mattress and she's got no skin. She's still so sexual, and you especially as a young boy watching that, I was so sexually attracted to Julia, but in a way that is obviously this is a skinless monster. I should not have these feelings. And the fact that I do is totally fucking me up right now. And that's some of my favorite stuff in movies is that like monstrous when sexuality and you know, kind of like also like the porcupine lady and Nightbreed kind of hits that a little bit.
Oh, right. That's right. Forgot about that.
That's kind of what you were talking about before. You know, you're finding this beautiful. Is there something wrong here?
Yeah. And it disturbs you.
That was a good one.
Love it.
Yeah. So the rest of the Hellraisers, I mean, I saw Hellraiser 3 on opening day. I think it has one great scene, but I'm not going to defend that movie. I think as soon as you've got CD throwing Cenobites, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No. We're good now. Yeah.
Yeah. Hellraiser 4 is obviously is what it is. It's Alan Smithy type movie. There's another one. Then they started making all the ones that are really crappy Hellraiser movies. They were just kind of holding on to the IP.
Yeah.
But there is one with Craig Sheffer, and I can't remember which one it is, but I think it's pretty good.
Well, there was one on Hulu recently.
Oh, that's the brand new one. Is that the one you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my friend David Bruckner made that one. That one's great.
That one was way more hostile than I expected.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. Definitely.
The ending really, really was like, oh, it just, rough, just crazy.
Yeah.
Rough.
It was a cool new take on the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Pat Horvath worked on that too.
He did?
Yeah, he did. Pat did a bunch of like, whenever like the gate would open up and they kind of had that strange visual of like the world, like, so he just helped design the look for all that stuff.
I bet he did.
That's cool.
And for listeners, Patrick is supremely talented guy as well. I don't know him well other than meeting him, hello once, but he has a series now of graphic novels or just graphic.
Yeah. I mean, they're floppies, they're monthly comics, but there's a couple, I think the first
it's called Beneath the Trees
novel. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're stunning. I mean, I've been watching his artwork on Instagram for a while and he would he'd call it like, picture dump. And they were amazing. All of them. And I was like, oh God, this guy's good. And then he came out with this great series called Beneath the Trees about this mess.
Right. It's beneath the trees where nobody sees.
That's it.
Yeah. So it's like a funny animals comic, but like but it's also kind of like Dexter, and it's a full blown serial, or like Hannibal. Like it's a full blown serial killer comic, but it's also a funny animals style. So it's really terrific.
Yeah, I think it's blown up pretty good. I think too. It's great.
It has. Cool. Yeah. It's gone into the stratosphere at this point.
It's outstanding.
It's very cool. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see here. How about short horror? How do you feel about short horror stories? Because that's kind of where we're at. Yes. I mean, I like them. I don't read as much short horror as I should. I occasionally will pick up like one of Ellen Datlow. I kind of like pick like somebody to like, who can I trust here? So I pick like anytime Ellen Datlow is the editor on a series, I'll like read, like I'm reading a collection of vampire stories because I've been working on vampire stuff that Ellen Datlow was the editor on. That's how it got on my radar. Nice. I got one. I recently got into Brian Evanson.
Oh, I know that name. Where do I know that from?
He's written a couple of novels. But he's more famous for his books of short stories. And
okay, yeah, I must have come across him recently or something because that name really rings a bell, and I can't remember.
Yeah, well, this is my big recommendation of the day is Brian Evanson, his short stories. You have you ever read the short stories of Raymond Carver?
Yes.
So kind of like a Carver vibe. These are very short stories, and you get a little taste of the world that's being put together in each one. But they're just pretty magnificent. They're all very dreamy and dark, and they all kind of seem to like connect in some unknown web that you can't ever quite make out the details of. But they're addictive.
That's
interesting.
Cool.
Okay.
That's cool.
And then my other favorite short horror writer who I spent a lot of time with is Richard Matheson. I've spent a lot of time going through all of Richard Matheson's short stories, and he's one of my all-time favorites.
We love us some Matheson.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So listeners will already know this because we've said it a number of times, but the reason the short horror thing is so important to us is when you're hammering out a novel, you can meander and you can do all manner of shit, and you can as long as you're keeping track with the whole arc, you can go all over the fucking place and take your time. But a short horror story, you have to pack in that arc in sometimes 10 pages or something stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to me, it's always the most fascinating shit that when I read a short horror story, I'm blown away that it only took 10 pages to blow my hair back.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I'm always fascinated by how they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't get it. So that's kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons we tackled those.
And they're more cinematic. You really don't get, adaptations from large novels tend to be disappointing, as I think we all know.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to read more short fiction in general because I just think there's better inspiration in terms of thinking about movies in short stories as opposed to reading novels and thinking about movies.
Yeah. Yep.
Just jumping back a half second, you were talking about your search for vampire stories. There is a wonderful anthology called The Vampire Archives.
Oh,
edited by Otto Penzler. He does
that name I know.
He does thousands of anthologies, but that's a really good one.
It's called The Vampire Archives.
Archives.
Okay,
and it runs the gamut.
Okay,
pretty much.
I'm getting it. I've got it right here. Yeah, I'm just because I've got this movie or this script that I'm trying to get off the ground now, and it's like I said, it's a vampire-ish novel, but I do want to be hitting the vampire thing throughout, and it's my first time doing something, a story that has any sort of tangential relationship to a classic monster. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, I love it.
Yep,
love it.
Let's have a brief list of your favorite writers, horror or otherwise.
Okay. Gosh, well, my favorite writer of all time is the Southern writer Walker Percy. Most people haven't heard of him, but many people know the novel Confederacy of Dunces.
Sure.
And Walker Percy's responsible for that getting published. He was at LSU when. In fact, if you read the foreword to it, you see the classic story of John Kennedy Toole's mother showing up and saying, "My son who just killed himself left behind this novel. I think it's great. You should read it." And Walker Percy was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." Okay.
right.
And then he starts to read it he turns a page. He's like, "Just please be bad enough so I can just put it down." And it wasn't. And then it turns into this, But anyway, so Walker Percy.
I had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea that was Walker Percy.
Yeah.
In that story. I knew that story. I didn't know that was him though.
That's cool.
He wrote 7 or 8 novels, and then he has collections of essays. Only his first novel, The Moviegoer, is very well known. The rest of his novels, I think they're all great, but his first one is the one that it won a National Book Award, and it's really well known. Outside of Percy, I'd say the obvious guys: Stephen King, Clive Barker. We mentioned Richard Matheson, Raymond Carver. This is not horror, and I've never seen the Bosch TV show, but I read almost all the Bosch books. I just really find those to be terrific. I don't know that he's the greatest writer in the world, but I think he captures LA so wonderfully. And
is that Connolly?
Yeah, Connolly. Yeah,
Michael Connolly. Yeah,
and part of it is that he was a newspaper writer on a crime beat, and I think so that bleeds into his writing in a way that really works, but it doesn't always feel literary. If you read oh gosh, who am I thinking of now? Some classic. There's plenty of crime writing that is still great literature at the same time.
James Ellroy.
James Ellroy. Obviously, I love Ellroy, but who wrote Heaven's Prisoners? I can't think of his name all of a sudden.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry.
I'll come clean, Dallas. I'm on this podcast because I know a handful of things, and I learn from Paul as I go.
Oh, James Lee Burke. James Lee Burke is a Southern.
Oh, James Lee Burke. Okay.
Yeah, he's a Southern writer.
Yes,
of crime.
I know the name.
And his books are just so. It's like you're reading literary fiction, or like Cormac McCarthy.
Right. Sure.
But anyway, in terms of favorites, my other all-time favorite is Jim Thompson. Speaking of crime.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love Jim Thompson, and he's got some crappy books too. Some of his later work you can just feel isn't there, but his great work is both The Killer Inside Me and The Getaway. And I think everybody thinks they know The Getaway because it's been made into a movie twice. But you go watch that, go read the original book. The end of The Getaway is one of the gnarliest, sickest endings I've ever read. It's so fun.
Wow.
It's great.
Yeah.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah. Jim Thompson. I love him.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I think that's kind of like my heavy hitters. So Flannery
Right on.
O'Connor, I mean, I'm from the South. A lot of my favorite stuff is Flannery O'Connor, and in fact, Walker, if he was going to be we thought he might be a girl. I mean, we toyed with Flannery as a name.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow. Okay.
After O'Connor, and then
Sure.
but I think that's mostly. I think that's like kind of my. I read a lot of nonfiction, so I read a lot of philosophy and books about movie making and stuff. So in terms of fiction, I feel like that's mainly my heavy hitters.
Good. That's a good list. That was very good.
Have you read the Peregrine? That's the Werner Herzog's recommendation.
No,
He's always like he always like I have no idea. I think it's just a book of nature writing.
Okay, by J.A. Baker.
I think that's the one.
Okay.
And,
a masterpiece of nature writing by J.A. Baker. Okay.
Okay, there you go. So, and that's and Herzog for some reason is always recommending that to filmmakers.
Well, I know he's a big proponent of reading. You know, his advice is read.
Absolutely,
and I think that's so cool.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I definitely don't read as much. I mean, I will never read as much as I wish I could. You know, I look at my bookshelf is filled with books I haven't read yet, and then every time I go, you know, I have a conversation like this, I've already got 5 new things that got pulled up here on my web browser that I want to get, and you know, there's no into. But yeah, I guess I didn't mention Lovecraft. I think that goes without saying, right? Lovecraft and Poe, those were early. Lovecraft was such a huge early influence, but it took me many. I would read Lovecraft as a young man because the world told me it was good, and I would like fall asleep reading it. You know what I mean? And now I can read it. Now I can read Lovecraft and enjoy it. But I do remember like just struggling to get through a slim collection of short stories because it's just like it's written so poorly.
Yeah, I've only read Lovecraft through Paul here because we've covered a few on the show.
Yeah.
And I love it.
We'll do more.
I love it. It's great. But yeah, it's just not coming from Stephen King, being told by King that this is the guy. And then you crack it open, you know, when you're in like 9th or 10th grade and you're just like, this is not, I don't think so.
Right.
And then of course, William S. Burroughs, my beloved William S. Burroughs.
Sure. If you want to, tell us the scariest thing that's ever happened to you. And as a side note, what scares you the most?
Okay, I'll give 2 answers.
Yep.
So first scary thing was after watching Faces of Death, which is probably not nearly as impactful as I thought it was at the time. Also in this day and age of like the internet.
It's just the internet now.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
We call that the internet.
Yeah. So it wouldn't, and it's kind of a silly movie, I guess. But when I first watched it, I was probably in 6th or 7th grade. It's all right back in that time. And I remember the movie ended. I was at my cousin's house. The movie ended, and we were going to go swimming, but then he wasn't out there yet. And I was laying in the pool, floating on my back, looking up at the stars, and just like confronting death for the first time. Wow. Oh, even though that movie's it's a Mondo movie. It's kind of a joke. It struck something in me about the reality of death, and I'll never forget the sense of fear and just kind of facing this profound reality in front of me. And then I guess I have two real world examples of fear. One, when I was working at a movie theater, a group of guys tried to carjack me. I parked in the back of the theater, and I was pulling out, and I drove my mother's 1987 Nova, which is not a very impressive vehicle. And I think it was more like, I don't think they cared about the car. I think it was more like the theater had a lot of gang activity the area did. So I think it was more of like the action of taking it as opposed to who gives a fuck about this dumb car. Right. But I was in the back of the theater all by myself, and it was dark, and the group of guys were coming toward me, asking me a question, and I just, to be nice, I was dumb and not being smart, I rolled down the window to like converse. What was the question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. And they asked again, but then they were talking to me in a way that was like intentionally hard to understand because it was like a way to get closer, you know? Sure.
Yeah.
And then 2 of them lunged at me and got their hand. It was in the driver's side, got their hands in the car, and their hands were on me. And I stepped on the gas, or not stepped on, I slammed my foot down on the gas pedal, but it was a 1987 Nova. So there was this like delay. And even after it did start going, it was a very slow acceleration. And so they were like freaked out as well. And they were like screaming, you motherfucker, and trying to grasp at me and like pulling on my hair and stuff in their hand.
Damn.
But the car got going enough to where the guy who was left and being dragged along with the car got whipped out of the car, and like his arm like kind of hit against the side of the car, of the open window as he fell down. So like the car finally got to speed, and I'm driving along this alley along the back of a strip mall in Birmingham. And I get out of this strip mall and I get to a gas station, and I called the movie theater to say like what happened. And like, cause other employees would park back there, you know, and like female employees, you know, and like I felt like it was kind of dangerous. The guy I was talking to was just like not taking me seriously. So then I was like, and then I felt like a coward. I was like, I'm being a fucking coward. I should drive back there and like go. Cause there were like cops that hung out at the theater, cause there was a lot of gang activity at the theater. So I drove back, and I was like, the theater was at the end of a big strip mall with tons of parking lots. And so I was trying to be sneaky and like drive along like through the parking lots, as opposed to like the roads on the sides of the parking lots. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I got close to the theater, there was a big group of dudes by this fountain who spotted me. And of course they were like, wait, this motherfucker is coming to tattle. And so as I started to drive close to the theater, this like group of 20 dudes started walking at me. And so I was like, fuck it, I am a coward, I'm out of here. So I just took off. But like it was terrifying. Man. I don't know what, they probably just would have beat me up and stolen the car. I mean, I don't think my life was actually in danger, but still it was terrifying.
No one wants that either. And, it's fucking awful.
And my last being scared thing that's a real world thing is my youngest son disappeared once for like 20 minutes.
Oh, fuck.
Everything was fine. And in fact, where he was in the house. But what happened, so we lived in this little house in South Pasadena. It was a guest house. So it was like we were all crammed in this guest house. And one day, Michelle was home and my older son Walker was there, and we were just like, has anyone seen Wyatt in a while? I mean, he was a little kid. I mean, this is like a little, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old kid, right? Mm-hmm. And we were like, we haven't seen him. Start looking around, keep waiting to find him, and he's not anywhere. And our house was like up. It was a guest house, so it was up against a big fence, and there was no way a little 4-year-old could get out on either side or the back. And so he would have had to go all the way to the front house and through a gate to the street to get away. But that couldn't have happened. And so we're running around, can't find him anywhere. And I just feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone, because like, how could he have gone anywhere?
Right.
And it didn't tip over into the real panic and fear that could have been there. Yeah. But so it's kind of a cheap answer, because I wasn't that scared, but what it was is I could see the fear. I could see it like on the horizon.
Yeah.
We got down to the street. We're calling his name. Neighbors are coming out.
Oh my
What's
God.
wrong? We can't find Wyatt. And like,
it's giving me anxiety.
And I was going to say, it's terrifying.
I was holding it at bay, right? It was like, I could smell the panic that was on the other side of this wall that I was like setting up around myself. Anyway, I walk back into the house and I just think, what the fuck is underneath that blanket in the corner? And I pull up the blanket and he's asleep. And he's like, oh, I hid. He hid on purpose to scare us, but then he fell asleep. So that's all it was. Is that he had been under this blanket in the house the whole time under a blanket. But it scared. It was the closest. I mean, if it had been 5 more minutes, I would have known what true fear felt like. I was
God, I can't.
Just holding on to like sanity for a few more minutes, waiting to see if we found him.
Just the premise gave me like, oh my God, freaking out.
Yeah.
Good.
That's good. I'm trying to think of like a no budget horror movie to make this summer. So that's a good. Maybe I'll. That's a good easy one.
Well, you talked about Monsters in the Dark.
Yes, Monster in the Dark.
Is that your next passion project that you want to do?
So, well, that one I think needs a budget of about $200,000 to $300,000, which is very, very cheap. But I really it's still way more than I ever work with. So I'm still going to try to get that one funded. But that one's in great shape. It's a great script. We have a pitch deck. We've got a budget written out for it. But it's an ensemble cast of young people, and it's a proper movie. It's not like one of my little homemade things. I think that one's still on the horizon. This vampire thing that I wrote is kind of my next passion project, because it's very simple to make, and it's strong. And I think I'm going to start passing the script around LA. And if I can get some traction on it, it just feels like it's in a world I love too. It's in this like underground heavy music world that's so much fun. So that's kind of like my real passion right now. But even that, like, I'm not going to make that anytime soon. So I'm searching right now to go all the way back to Entrance. I would say if Patrick and I had just made another Entrance-sized movie and another one, there's that director Adam Wingard who, he like makes Godzilla movies now, but we were watching his career back when he made Entrance, and like he was making Entrance-sized movies, and he just kept doing it year after year, and then his movies grew year after year, and then he became a big successful director. And I kind of think like,
so that's a pretty good template for you.
I think so. I think if I had just kept working back then, instead we got seduced after Entrance, and we went on like seduced into Hollywood, like meetings and developments and conversations about doing stuff, but never doing stuff. So all that's to say is, like, with Interaction done now 15 years later, I'm really focused on just doing the right thing and making more stuff. And so I'm trying to think of I made Entrance for an Interaction for $10,000. I'm trying to think of like a zero budget movie I can do. I have the cameras, I have the tools to edit it and to put it out. And I'm just like, what does it look like if I spent 2 weeks this summer and spend literally $0 to do it? What does that look like?
I don't know.
That's the size of my box. How do I design an endeavor to fit within that? And so that's what I've been racking my brain about right now.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, and like the stuff that's really haunting me right now is like what's going on with ICE and what's going on with disappearances. How people get disappeared in this country now. People get assassinated, and I wouldn't make a movie directly Interaction's kind of about the internet, even though no one ever uses the internet in it.
Right, sure.
So that's like, I would want to do something that's not so that's more eternal. I don't want to make journalism, so I'm not looking to make something that's like about
something
that's
too on the nose.
Yeah. But that's kind of the inspiration. Like that's what's haunting me the most and scaring me the most right now is the rise of fascism in America. So I'm just like, how do I make something about fascism?
Well, can I share with you a story?
Yes.
So I mentioned Theodore Sturgeon before. I'm going to talk about him again. He said he was having he had terrible writer's block periods, sometimes lasting years. And one particular time he was having a block, it was because he was really upset about Joe McCarthy. And, some of his friends were getting, blacklisted and stuff like that. So he was, he kept saying, I want to write a story about Joe McCarthy, but he was so distraught about it. He could not, get this thing to work. And now he was, writing was paying his bills. I mean, he couldn't eat now. So he wrote to, he called up, he called up, I think it was John W. Campbell, who I talked about on the show. I'm not sure, but the piece of advice that maybe John Campbell gave to him was, okay, how about this? Forget about Joe McCarthy. We're not going to, I don't need a story by him. Okay. I'll buy the next story you write, but it's got to be what I tell you. Okay. He says, I want you to write a story about a guy who goes down to the train station to pick up his wife. She's on a trip. He's going to surprise her, actually. That's what it was. He's going to surprise her at the train station. So he goes there, and the train pulls up. She comes out. She's looking radiant, and she's got a huge smile on her face all of a sudden. And then he realizes that the smile she has is for another man who comes up and gives her flowers and a big kiss.
Wow.
He says, write me that story, and by the time you're done, the whole world will know how you feel about Joe McCarthy.
wow.
So that's a nice, if you're
That's
too close
great.
to something,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. Your subconscious will betray you every time.
Mhm.
So just make a vampire movie. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It'll be about ice, whether you want it to or not.
Yeah, no, that's great, and you can't chase. Like we've already talked about, you really can't chase it. You've got to like find. So my starting
Right.
place is as it usually is with me. My starting place is material, and it's like what the materiality of like I have some ideas for shots, and I've got a camera, and like that's it.
Yeah.
And then and I'm gonna have this like 2-week window that I've gotten permission from the family to do this, and I'm just gonna. Between now and that 2 weeks, I need to figure out what I'm doing, but I'm going to do something, and something I can do quickly. Interaction took a couple years to get finished and edited and put together. I want to do something a lot quicker that I can just submit to festivals while I still have, right now Interaction had a nice run in festivals, and even festivals that rejected us, they know about the endeavor. And I think I got a shot of getting something that if I can just get something out quicker, I've got a shot at getting something, on another run, or just put it on YouTube. Especially if I spend $0 on it, then just put it on YouTube.
Sure.
I mean, I really just want to keep working.
Just put it out.
Yeah.
Now, when can the public? Because Paul and I were, granted permission to see Interaction, but when can the public watch that? Do you think?
Well, we've had a couple different distribution opportunities that have been kind of circling, and so I'm hoping to sort one of those out within the coming months. But even then, it would still be another 5 or 6 months before it got out.
Okay.
So I would say it's within the next 5 months. Let's say it's either going to be out, or I'm going to give up and just put it on Tubi. So it's one of the two things is going to happen. So it will definitely it'll be a minute, but it is going to be out into the world.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
Okay, cool.
Very good. All right. In closing, I'm going to recommend a short story for you, and then Paul will.
Great.
I'll give him time to think of the best one because I've already got mine loaded.
There's no pressure.
I have to add another tab to my web browser as I continue to put all the things I need to look at on here. Okay.
Yes, and my recommendation is Paul's fault anyway. It's Ray Bradbury's The Emissary.
Okay.
It is one of the best things you'll ever read. It's fucking great, dude.
Okay, hold on. See, I like anybody, I'm a Ray Bradbury fan. Like the idea of Bradbury, I actually haven't read a lot of Bradbury. And I
That's
listened
exactly
to
where
y'all's
I was
episode.
before Uncle Paul turned me on to all that stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
Boom. I got it right here.
Nice.
And I'm not going to spoil it for myself, but I do see that it's about a boy named Martin, and Martin is like my current big George Romero's Martin. Oh, George Romero's Martin has always been a huge influence my whole life.
Right on.
I will read it tonight.
Do it. Yeah, great.
Nice.
I want a full report. What do you think, Paul?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. If you want true horror, I would say the Book of Leviticus. No, just kidding. No. No. Okay. So just off the top of my head, because I mentioned the Vampire Archives and you were talking about vampires, one of my favorite writers when it comes to vampires is a guy by the name of R. Chetwynd Hayes. Okay. Chetwynd spelled CHETWIND HAYES. Okay. So R. Chetwynd Hayes. And he was, I want to say he was kind of the British Stephen King, but not really. I don't know what kind of comparison you can make, but he's British. But he writes just wonderfully about, with so much love for monsters. And the monsters are almost never the bad guy in the story.
Very cool.
Humans are always the bad guys in the story. So he's got a story called The Humgoo. Okay. HUMGOO. Okay.
HUMG. Oh, got it. Okay.
GOO. Okay. And it was in a collection called The Monster Club, which they made into a cheesy but very lovable movie in 1980. It was one of those British anthology films. And so, but if you can see that little film, I think it's about 20 minutes long. It's about 3 or 4 stories in the film, and that one segment's about 20 minutes long, and it closes the movie. It's really good, and the story's great too.
Okay,
and it's just fun. It's not gonna change your life. It's not gonna do anything. It's just gonna occupy your time in a way that you won't feel it's wasted.
It looks great. I'm very excited to read it. I
There you
also this is I mean, just looking over Chetwynd Hayes, I mean, this is a major figure who I've never heard of. So I'm getting
Yeah. We were going to cover that. I think we bypassed it for something else, right?
We did.
Yeah.
We did. Absolutely. So, but it's always on the list. We'll get to it.
Okay, cool.
So Dallas, one last question for me, actually. Now, if you're divulging a trade secret here, you don't have to tell it. Okay. Just going to say that right off the bat. But in Interaction, there's a scene, and I need to know how it was done. How did you get the cat to stay when you turned on the vacuum cleaner?
Well, that's a very easy trade secret, which is to say that the noise of the vacuum cleaner was added in post.
Okay, that's what I figured. Unfortunately, there's no way to replicate that in real life, so I'm screwed. Okay,
you know what? Right. You're right, though. It is a possible. Sharp-eyed viewers will say to themselves, "That vacuum is not on." There's no
that
way
cat would have been fucking gone.
I never even thought about that, but it's so funny because all we thought was a free production value because so that house. When people see the movie, they'll see what house we're on. It's because she cleans different houses, so there's different locations. That house, which is the house of the kind of other main character in the story, was owned by a really cool guy who had recently painted our house. He was our house painter, and because our house had been gray, our house is in the movie and it's black, but it had been gray prior. Right. And anyway, his name's Eric, and it's a really cool dude, and he allowed us to shoot in his house, but he had these animals. And so I thought, hey, if they can get in the shot, that's some great production value. But now I'm realizing, oh crap, they would have run away.
Now you can't watch that scene without going, God damn it.
Yeah, I mean, Eric was a total MVP. So not only did we shoot in his house, but there's a bedroom in the basement, which viewers will see when listeners will see if they watch the movie. There's a bedroom in the basement, and that's a set that he built. I mean, there was no bedroom there, so he had a basement, and that's really cool. He built that out of the kindness of his heart.
Oh,
that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
love it.
One last thing from me. One of my very favorite memories that includes you, Dallas, is the time that we used to work together was around the early 2000s. As a rule on Punk'd. And that's when The Return of the King was released in theaters.
Okay.
And a bunch of us from the art department went to see Return of the King at the Vista.
At the Vista? That's where we saw it? Okay.
I think so. I wrestled with it if it was either the ArcLight or the Vista, which are two very different theaters, but
yeah,
I have a memory of being at the Vista seeing it.
Okay.
And people are all dressed up, and there's Gandalf standing there, but there was like a stormtrooper standing there for some reason, which is hilarious. But, we were watching the film, and one of my favorite memories is at the point where, and spoiler alert, sorry if you haven't seen Return of the King, it's your own fault, whatever. Yeah, but we were watching it, and Shelob, the spider, is walking above Frodo, and the shot is from down by his feet shooting up, and it's being very silent. And it's creeping above him. And you were sitting there, and I heard you go, "Oh shit!" And just like the place was dead silent, but I heard you like just eating it up, just like, "Fuck yeah, look at that shit!" And I was dying. I'm like, "Yep, that is fantastic."
That makes me so happy to hear. I mean, I would hope to be someone who still can, go and see Lord of the Rings and enjoy it that much.
Sure.
I don't want to turn into someone who is just. I mean, the kind of movies that I focus on or that I make or that I think about are so serious, and quote unquote art house or whatever. But I want to be able to go to the cinema and enjoy movies like that. I love that.
Sure. Yeah, there is a danger if you work in the industry too long that you can kind of fall out of that if you're not careful.
Yes, it's easy to I remember my theater teacher in high school, Pat Bailey, similar to the other teacher, someone who really, the other one that I told the story about earlier, this was someone who really, everybody put a lot of stock in everything she said, and she changed a lot of lives. I think in the end, Pat Bailey was a big Dallas Hallam fan. So I have nothing, I love her. She had a huge influence on my life. But I remember her telling all of us in a group, we were having a whole kind of theater acting workshop about truth, which was a bit, it's funny. We've talked about truth a lot on this, but she really would take a week every year with all of the acting students and focus just on this concept of truth. And it was a very open-ended discussion, a very open-ended thing. But I remember her talking about the danger of pursuing, if like you love something, like say movies, the danger of loving it and pursuing it, and how the more you learn about something, theater, movies, whatever, acting, then you can lose that love.
Yep.
And I worried about that for a long time. At this point in my life, it's just not a concern. I love movies so much, and the more I learn about them, I haven't lost it. You know, like the magic of it is still there, even though now when I'm watching a movie, I'm watching it to see how it was produced. I'm always thinking about that, but it's still, the love is there. The love of the love of the craft maybe has like supplanted the love of the content, but yeah, I'm still there.
That's cool.
That's fantastic. So Dallas, thank you so much, man, for
seriously
joining us for this, because it's fucking great.
Yeah. Thank you. This was such a treat. I've had a wonderful time, you know, chatting with you guys. I'm glad we got to go long and get deep into things.
I was going to say we went a really long time and it didn't feel like it at all.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, I appreciate that. A lot of times you don't get to have conversations that go this deep. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, for me, it's pretty cool to have two of my favorite people shake hands like this. It's pretty cool.
Yes.
I like
That's
it.
great. Thank you.
I'm so glad that we've connected. This is I've been listening to your show, and it's just such a thrill because Alec is one of my favorite people of all time. And also your radio voice, Alec, is just, it's great. I mean, it's very mellifluous.
Oh,
yes.
Well, thanks. I have Marlboro to thank for that.
Are you still a smoker?
No, hell no, not for a long time.
Yeah. But me neither. It took me a long time to quit. But man, remember back at the shop?
Oh, hell yeah.
Boy.
It got smoky.
It got smoky. Okay, one last story. And then I know we got to go, but this is in the shop me and Alec used to work in. It was a non-union shop, as previously noted.
Mm-hmm.
And there wasn't there weren't any foremans walking around making sure we were doing things safely.
Right.
And we all chain smoked, and there was a lot of weed that got smoked. Nowadays, everybody fucking smokes weed, and there's pot stores in every corner, so it doesn't have the same impact. But this is back in the day; it was illegal. We're all smoking weed, and then we would crack open the brewskis pretty early, and then a lot of times we get put back to work. We'd be like, we'd think the day was over. Remember, we sitting around drinking, and all of a sudden you got to do some, build something.
Yeah, not to name drop too much, but Oscar would come flying out with some harebrained scheme. We're going to do this thing, and we got to get it ready tonight by 9 p.m. Let's roll.
Oh, I have separate story on that, and then I'll tell the other one. So I remember once, and this one's just one because this stuck with me forever. I remember once you were there too, Alec. We were all sitting around. It was a group of us sitting around, and we all had like shop cell phones. We all had specific shop cell phones, and we're sitting there. We've already all had a couple beers, maybe smoked a joint. We're smoking cigarettes. At the end of a hard day. And all of a sudden, my phone rings. And I look up, and like the fear in my eyes, because I was like, "It's Oscar."
Yeah.
And everyone, and I can't remember, someone in the group was like, "Don't answer it.
Don't answer it."
And I was just like, I have to answer it. And of course, I had to answer it. And not only that, he would have just called the next person and the next and the next. And I answered it with such trepidation. And it turned out that whatever they were working on, some show that the other crew was, and the producers came in and they spotted all the camera hides, and it was a huge disaster. And all of a sudden, this group of like tipsy, high dudes had to pile back into a truck and go back to work. And I felt like it was my fault for answering the phone, but I had to.
No, you had no choice, dude. It's just how it was. No, I was just going to say on those production cells, they'd get recycled. Different people have them before you do, like 10 other people. So I was on the truck with one of the guys, and Jay Moore called me. He's like, "Hey, Bob, it's Jay Moore." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. I'm not Bob, but." I really dig your impressions. I think you're great. So
that's great.
Yeah, it was fun.
I was just going to talk about, just speaking of smoking. I just remember once, and this will be the last shop story. The same shop I used to work in. So I probably had smoked some weed earlier. I mean, this is not who I am now. I'm a 46-year-old man with 2 kids.
Of course,
I'm not partying in an art shop anymore. But this is really young.
Yeah.
So I remember I was pushing 4x8 sheets of plywood through a table saw, and I paused. There was smoke in my eye from the cigarette dangling out of my mouth, and I paused for a moment to take a sip of beer, and that's when I realized something was terribly wrong.
Yeah, this is not right.
And so I did change my ways a bit after that, because we're working in this shop day in, day out, and like just not being safe.
You're
at
like
all.
filming an OSHA film. You know?
Yeah, right. Yes, we put in the hours, but we also, put in the beer and the smokes too.
Yes, it was good times. I mean, I'll never. It was
No, it was the best.
Spent there. I wouldn't trade him for anything.
Great people, and the memories are there. They're always there.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, Dallas. Thank you, brother. This was great. This was really, really cool.
Thanks a lot, Dallas. Seriously, it was great to meet you.
And everybody, go check out Entrance, and then keep your eyes skinned for Interaction, because it's going to be out there at some point, and you're gonna love it. It's so fucking good.
I mean, if I can't get distribution for this, I will just eventually just drop it on YouTube. Like I've made this movie, or like I said, I can try to drop it on Tubi. But the thing is about Tubi is that then it would have ads, and I'd almost rather like make no money on it, just put it on YouTube and share it, and that way at least. I guess YouTube has ads too, unless unless you're subscribed. Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess I would go the Tubi route, but hopefully not. Hopefully out there, you guys will have an opportunity to see it on Shudder or something in the next.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
6 months. I mean, if I can swing something like that, that'd be cool.
Yeah, man. Congrats again. It's a banger.
Yes, it is.
Thank you so much. And I'm gonna read this vampires. I got short story recommendations. I got this big vampire anthology. I got lots to read.
Sweet.
Cool.
Thank you guys. This was
Thanks a lot, man.
The highlight of my week. I really am. This is
cool.
It's not gonna get better than this.
Cool, man.
And I'm sorry to hear that, first of all, but at the same time, as they say on the talk shows, come back anytime. Seriously.
Okay. Yeah, I will. I'll read some of these short stories. I'll get the movie out. Maybe when the next one comes out.
Yeah.
So I'd love to come back.
Awesome. Thanks, Dallas.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Boy, I thought he'd never fucking leave.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. No, we're kidding.
Oh my God. I love that dude.
Yeah, he's great. I'm glad we did that. That was awesome. Let's do the full disclosure thing. I think we were only planning for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, we were supposed to make this a nice, quick, concise interview about his film, and
1, 2, 3, and we're out.
But Dallas is good like that. He will chat you up. He's good.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, that was fun, and thanks for sharing the movie with us. That was great.
Yeah, awesome.
And all of you out there listening, wait till you see it. It's really great.
Yes.
All right. Well, Paul.
Yes.
What is next on the docket? What are we going to do?
Okay, well, we're officially launching season, 4, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
We are launching with Stephen King. Why not? We have to launch with Stephen King. And we're doing Jerusalem's Lot.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a great one. And it's one of my favorites. I love it.
All right, cool. This was fun. Maybe we'll find some other folks that are willing to talk to us if we're very, very lucky.
Exactly. And if we have enough RAM left on our computers to hold these conversations.
All right. Thanks, Paul. That was great.
All right. Take care, buddy.
All right. See ya.